Chapter 91 Times have changed, and now he is ranked among the most respected. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Generally speaking, Guan was not interested in demonic cultivators and tried to avoid them, but there was one person who was different, that was Su Ju. Su Ju had led the demon army to besiege Ji Xiaoyu before, which gave Guan a lifespan of more than 50,000 years. Guan was deeply impressed by him. After leaving Xian Valley, Guan flew towards the outer city. After flying a long way, he performed the great yin-yang transformation, turned into a demon shadow, and disappeared into the forest with the Wuji Wuzong Xiantian steppe. In a dense forest 200 miles away from Xian Valley, Su Ju was meditating under a tree. His hair was disheveled, his black robe was torn, and he looked very embarrassed. There were small flags around him, and a faint light shield protected him. The deputy leader of the Xuanxin Sect suddenly changed his face, and then spit out a mouthful of black blood, which was sprinkled on the grass, causing the weeds to wither and produce wisps of black smoke. Damn Ji family! Su Ju gritted his teeth, his tone full of hatred. While being hunted by Ji Chen, he was besieged by other great monks of the Ji family and almost died. He was a little scared when he recalled it. The magic sect gathered the power of 5 sects, namely Qianqiu Pavilion, Guhao Sect, Xuanxin Sect, Tianjue Sect, and Handa Valley, but was repelled in just one day. The strength of Taishan Sect frightened Su Ju. Su Ju thought of the Ji family members in his sect, and he suddenly wanted to go back and kill all the monks of the Ji family, but when he thought of the strength of the Ji family, he sighed, forget it, just bear it. One day, he will destroy the entire Ji family. Just as Su Ju was daydreaming, a strong wind suddenly came from the depths of the forest, making him look subconsciously. Boom! The formation around him suddenly broke, and a purple-black figure appeared in front of him out of thin air, pressing a finger on his temple, and the terrifying momentum enveloped him, making him unable to move. Magic Shadow Divine Art. Which expert in Qianqiu Pavilion are you? Su Ju's face changed drastically, and he asked cautiously, is there such a powerful existence in Qianqiu Pavilion? He is a cultivator of the 9th level of the Dushu realm. Even if he is seriously injured, he cannot be suppressed by the Dushu realm. Let me ask you something. Guan said with a hoarse voice. Su Ju breathed a sigh of relief and responded, please speak, senior. Damn Qianqiu Pavilion. I will lead the Xuanxin sect to crush you. Guan suddenly remembered that Su Ju was Su Rui's father, and Su Rui died in his hands. Forget it. As soon as Guan's voice sounded, a sword energy pierced Su Ju's temple along his fingertips, and then severely damaged his soul. Su Ju's pupils were dilated, and before he fell to the ground, Guan followed to perform soul-stealing skills to search his memory. The spells taught by Jiang Qiong are very practical, and Guan can use them for a long time. The memory of the 9th level of the Crossing Void Realm is extremely huge, but Guan only searched for spells related to the demon army, which happened to be yesterday, so it was not difficult to find. After an incense stick of time, Guan stopped, and Su Ju fell to the ground. You successfully seized Su Ju's 9th level of the Crossing Void Realm, 153 years of life. Not bad, the lifespan is very high. Guan suddenly liked Su Ju. He took off Su Ju's storage bag and burned his body to ashes. After doing all this, he left. He did not return to Xian Valley, but really went to the outer gate city. There was a majestic giant mountain outside the outer gate city. Looking closely, it turned out to be the body of a giant bird. Swallowing sky bird. Its body was thousands of feet high when it lay on the ground, and it was larger than the surrounding mountains. Guan stepped on the flying sword and looked from a distance, full of curiosity in his heart. Where does such a giant beast usually live? He felt that there should be no place for this bird to live in the Taizong dynasty, and it was probably captured by the demon Dao from outside the 9 dynasties. After the war, the gates of the outer gate city became strict, and every disciple entering and leaving was carefully examined. After Guan entered the city, he first went to look for Yilan. He met Yilan on patrol on a street. Brother, why are you here? Yilan's cold face suddenly broke into a smile when she saw Guan, and her subordinates dispersed very tactfully. They were not the first time to see Guan and knew the relationship between the two of them. Come to see you, how are you not injured? Guan asked with concern. Yilan shook her head, then pulled him aside and talked about what happened yesterday. After yesterday's battle, the Outer Gate City suffered heavy casualties, mainly because a terrifying monster named Xuanxin Demon King launched an attack in the city, causing the formation of the Outer Gate City to break and fall into a bitter battle. In the end, Xuanxin Demon King left and became a shadow in the hearts of everyone in this Outer Gate City. After hearing this, Guan felt even more deeply about the cruelty of the world of immortal cultivation. Fortunately, the people he cared about were fine. After chatting with Yilan for a while, Guan said goodbye and left. He came to the Butian terrace. Most of the people on the stage were gone, and most of the remaining people were injured. The Epiphyllum Ghost Mother was still there, and her body was stained with blood, as if she was really a disciple fighting for Xiantian Sect. It seems that she is not in the same group as the Demon Dao and Xuanxin Demon King. After scanning the Butian terrace, Guan went to find Zhang Qiong again. Zhang Qiong was in the mansion. After Guan closed the door, he looked at her and asked, "Didn't you say that this city would not be affected?" Zhang Qiong sat on the chair. Her face was very ugly, her blood was unstable, and she was obviously injured. "The situation has changed. The information I got is false. It seems that Xiantian Pavilion has already suspected me." Zhang Qiong took a deep breath and said faintly. Guan was delighted when he heard this, and said, "If that's the case, then we should just give up the dark and join the light and cut off our relationship with Xiantian Pavilion from now on." He has too many identities as a spy, and he himself feels bad about it, so he has to give up some of them. Zhang Qiong shook her head and said, "It's not that easy." Guan did not comfort her, but asked, "By the way, has Fu Dao Jian Zun appeared?" He was very concerned about who was impersonating him. "It's fake, that person is not Fu Dao Jian Zun at all, but a spy of the Demon Dao, who has been dormant in Xiantian Sect for hundreds of years, claiming to be Fu Dao Jian Zun." When the Demon Dao knew his details, their fear of him subsided, and thus launched a war. Zhang Qiong couldn't help rubbing his eyebrows when talking about this. Guan asked in surprise, "The demons are harming each other? Or has that person changed and become the bait of Teixumen?" Zhang Qiong shook his head and said, "I don't know either. I am very confused now. It is said that Chu Tianqi has escaped. The deceased Liu Beidian has taken over the leadership of the sect again and is preparing to investigate the Teixumen. For the next period of time, you should come to me less. I have to deal with the investigation from above." This morning, news came from above that the Teixumen Zun Pavilion will be established. The Zun Pavilion is above the Elders' Hall. Fu Dao Jianzun is one of them. The sect master will also select 3 people from the Elders' Hall to be included in the Zun Pavilion. Zun Pavilion will govern Teixumen again and eliminate unhealthy trends. Lv Beidian really listened to Guan's words. Just listen to advice. Guan made this suggestion not only to deal with Liu Beidian, but also to hope that Teixumen can get better. Liu Beidian has no time to manage it, so let others manage it. There are too many people in the Elders' Hall. By the time opinions are unified, the people below are already in dire straits. The establishment of Zun Pavilion should make Teixumen less suffering. Afterwards, Zhang Qiong took out a storage bag and said that it contained high-level seeds that she had spent 80% of her savings on, all of which were above the 5th level. She would come to see her again when these herbs matured. This meant that they would not see each other for several years. It seemed that Zhang Qiong was facing a very dangerous situation. Xiantian Pavilion did not trust her, and Xiantian Sect might still find her. It was really like walking on thin ice. Guan could only wish her good luck in his heart, and then left happily with the storage bag. The siege of Xiantian Sect by the 5 sects of the demonic path was like a whirlwind sweeping across the world of cultivation, shocking the entire Taizong dynasty. The strength of Xiantian Sect also frightened the entire demonic path. For a period of time afterwards, the world of cultivation fell into a strange calm. After Lv Beidian was reappointed as the leader of the sect, he took drastic measures, established Zun Pavilion, weakened the power of the Elders' Hall, and ordered a thorough investigation of the spies of the demonic path, killing more than 1,000 of them. After Chu Tianqi escaped, the Chu family suffered a crazy revenge from Liu Beidian. All the Chu family members in the sect were suppressed, some died, some were imprisoned, and some young disciples with better conduct were dismissed from their cultivation, cursed, and sent to the outer sect as errant disciples. Xian Valley welcomed a errant disciple named Chu. He was someone Guan knew, Chu Jingfeng. When Guan first entered Taixian sect, he encountered the attack of the greedy demon ghost on Yao Valley. At that time, the inner sect disciple invited by Qing Xiandan was Chu Jingfeng, who broke one arm. Later, he helped Guan clear the evil monks around Xian Valley with the greedy demon ghost. Guan looked at Chu Jingfeng, who was sitting opposite him with the vicissitudes of life on his face, and sighed in his heart. When the two talked for the last time, Chu Jingfeng promised that he could find the Chu family if he encountered any trouble in the future. As time passed, the Chu family had completely declined. Chu Jingfeng still had his arm broken, wearing ragged cloth, messy hair, and a beard. On his face, looking sloppy and decadent. Brother Chu, as long as you are alive, there is still hope. Work hard. As long as you perform well, the higher-ups will revoke your punishment. Guan comforted him. Wu Xian had quietly left, and now he was back in charge of Xian Valley, and needed to cultivate new talents. He thought Chu Jingfeng was good. If Chu Jingfeng performed well later, he could pass on Wu Xian's Dao Yen Gong to Chu Jingfeng. Dao Yen Gong relied on accumulating spiritual power to break through the limit, and perhaps it could save the disabled Chu Jingfeng. Chu Jingfeng nodded numbly and did not speak. Guan did not embarrass him, and let him go after explaining some things. Chu Jingfeng closed the door after leaving the house, and his attitude was very low, but Guan did not see respect from him, only despair. Alas! Poor! Guan shook his head, picked up a pen and paper, and began to write a book. Half a year had passed since the war between good and evil. Winter had gone and spring had gone. It was summer again. He was already 51 years old and had many feelings about life, which he was ready to express in his book. Until the evening, Guan walked out of the attic and came to the third medicine valley through the teleportation array. He felt Xuanxin in his room. Since Guan threatened to write her into the book half a year ago, the two had lost contact. She appeared now. Wouldn't she come to settle accounts with him? After all, she was a saint. How could she not have some face? Guan thought as he went upstairs to find Xuanxin. After entering the house, he saw Xuanxin sitting at the table, wearing a veil, doing nothing, looking at him calmly. Something was wrong. Not like her usual self. Is she going crazy? Guan quickly closed the door, then turned to look at her. Just as he was about to ask, she asked first, "Have you started writing the Medicine Heroes Travels?" Third update. Asking for monthly tickets at the end of the month. Try to update early tomorrow, and keep adjusting QAQ. Chapter 92, 700,000-year lifespan, Ancient Species. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Xuanxin's words, Guan almost couldn't hold himself back. He quickly clarified, "How is that possible? I was trying to scare you. It's impossible for me to write this kind of book." He must explain to prevent Xuanxin from tainting his innocence. Xuanxin stared at him, as if he wanted to see through him, but he was calm and had a clear conscience. "Okay, then I believe you," Xuanxin said softly, but her tone was different from before, which made Guan wonder what she was thinking. Guan walked to the tea table and started making tea with hot water. When he brought the tea bowl in front of Xuanxin, Xuanxin said, "Actually, I came to you for another matter." "Say." Guan responded, then sat down at the table. Xuanxin said, "It is said that Mr. Tian from the Medicine Valley was the current sect leader Lu Baidian. Is this true?" Guan felt that there was nothing to hide in this matter, so he nodded. "Speaking of which, since the war ended half a year ago, Gu Zong and Xiantian have not been here again. I wonder if they were dealt with by Lu Baidian." It's okay to say that Gu Zong is obviously from Lu Baitian's faction, but Xiantian had scolded Lu Baidian in the Third Medicine Valley and even said he wanted to be the leader of the sect. "I want you to help me introduce Master Lu, in my own name and not on behalf of the Taoist sect," Xuanxin said, staring at Guan. Guan frowned, showing hesitation. Xuanxin took out a mahogany box from the storage bag and said, "This is the 6th-level spiritual tree, purple mist bamboo. One section can form a bamboo forest. Plant it on the edge of the Medicine Valley, and it will automatically form a purple mist maze. Purple mist bamboo. The bamboo shoots are also high-quality medicinal materials and are very expensive. What do you mean? What is our relationship? Do we need this? Guan said in a deep voice, then put the mahogany box into the storage bag, and then said seriously, as long as you ask about your matter, I will help you. I won't do it again. Xuanxin was stunned for a moment, then let out a frightened sound, covering his mouth and laughing. When she smiles, her eyes are really pretty, Guan thought this way. After he joked like this, the awkward atmosphere between the two disappeared, and the subsequent chat returned to its previous state. After chatting for a long time, Xuanxin just left. Guan began to wander around the Medicine Valley, choosing a suitable place to plant purple mist bamboo. In the end, he chose to plant purple mist bamboo in the southern edge mountainous area, and sent Teng to stay here specifically. He began to look forward to Lu Baitian's arrival. It wasn't for Xuanxin's sake. He was thinking about Lu Baitian's promise. Lu Baitian said that if you have any needs, you can come to him. Guan does not want the fourth Medicine Valley for the time being, but wants high-level medicinal herb seeds to gradually replace the low-level ones. If he can plant high-level seeds covering a radius of hundreds of miles, his lifespan and income will take a leap. As long as he reaches 1 million lifespan and unlocks new functions, he will fully improve himself. Day by day passed. It wasn't until early autumn that Lu Baitian finally came. He was wearing a black robe with dragon patterns, his black hair was entangled under a jade crown, and his face was majestic. He was completely different from the old Tian Lao. Now he fully showed the courage of the master. As soon as they met, Guan threw the lifespan probe at him. Lu Baitian, 9th level of Fusion Realm 755/3150/3200, good guy, I have indeed reached the 9th level of the Fusion Realm. Moreover, the lifespan is close to the limit and it is difficult to increase it. Guan suddenly thought of something. Was Chu Xian's sacrificial formation at the outer gate prepared for Lu Baitian? No, the Chu family was all destroyed by Lu Baitian. It shouldn't be his fault, Guan was thinking as he greeted Lu Baitian. The two went into the house to talk. Lu Baitian took out 4 booklets from his storage bag, placed them on the table, and said, I established Zunj according to your suggestion. These are the 4 members of Zunj. You can take a look. After hearing this, Guan immediately picked up a book and found that it not only contained the names and portraits of Zunj members, but also various detailed information, including life experiences. He flipped through it quickly, seemingly perfunctory, but in fact he wrote down all the information. The last booklet belongs to Fudao Sword Master, with only his name and experience. The world of immortal cultivators calls him Fei's Sword Master, and Xiantian Sect respects him as Fudao Sword Master, Gu Gua, Xuanxin, Zhou Yu. What an exaggeration. They happen to be the 3 most powerful families in the Taizong dynasty. And they are all at the Fusion Realm. Guan has never met these 3 people. Now he has seen 6 people in the combined realm, namely Lu Baitian, Xiantian, Gu Gua, Xuanxin, Zhou Yu, and Lei Zhen. This is not the full strength of Teixuanmen. Guan always remembers that the strongest person in Xiantian Sect is the true disciple, and that person has left Taizong dynasty. I wonder if there are any supreme elders in Xiantian Sect. Guan was frightened and asked, Master, is it inappropriate to show me something like this? Lu Baitian smiled and said, if you want to write a book similar to Fengshen Yanni next time, you can include Teixuanmen. After all, Teixuanmen in Taixian Immortal Lord is a bit of a joke and not deep enough. We'll read it later. Let's finish writing about Taixian Immortal Lord first. Guan responded, Taixian Immortal Master has at least 5 million words, and he publishes 1 book every year, which only has hundreds of thousands of words. Occasionally, he even writes 1 book every 2 years. It is still too early to finish it. The main reason is that the spiritual stone benefits brought by Taixian Immortal Master are huge, far exceeding those of Fengshen, and he doesn't want to give up for the time being. Lu Baitian smiled and did not urge him. Guan spoke out Xuanxin's request at the right time, and Lu Baitian agreed without hesitation, saying that he could meet her today. Guan then asked, Master, do what you said to me before still count? What? Have you changed your mind and want to be the leader? Lv Baitian asked with narrowed eyes. His tone was very happy. No, you said you can find you anytime if you need anything. I want more high-level herbs. I can even help you grow them and send them to you when they are mature. I want to learn about all kinds of exotic flowers and herbs in the world and enhance my planting skills. Guan explained hurriedly, the way of planting. LV Baitian's mouth twitched and his eyes were weird. In the end, LV Baitian agreed and said that he would send herb seeds in a few days. Then, Guan got up and went to find Xinjian and brought Xinjian to see LV Baitian. After the two met, Guan went downstairs without interrupting their conversation. This time, LV Baitian cast a ban, so even Guan could not eavesdrop. The two chatted for an hour before they dispersed. LV Baitian left first, and Xinjian stood beside Guan and watched him leave. Xinjian turned his head to look at him and asked with a smile, "Aren't you just curious about what we talked about?" Guan shook his head and said, "I dare not ask, and I don't want to know, for fear of causing trouble." I provided him with a piece of information in exchange for the strongest musical spell of Xiantian Sect. When I practice it, I will show it to you. Xinjian smiled, and then she jumped up and flew towards her cave. Guan didn't think much about it. Whatever Xinjian did had nothing to do with him. As long as he didn't threaten him, he began to look forward to LV Baitian's high-level herb seeds. 5 days later, LV Baitian's people came and handed Guan a storage bag. He used his spiritual sense to explore it. The grade was very high, with a number of hundreds of thousands, and there was also a booklet and a letter in it. Guan went back to the house to check the letter. LV Baitian said that these seeds were provided by him personally, without using the wealth of Xiantian Sect. If he planted well, he could get half of the profit. If he didn't plant well, he had to be his apprentice. Seeing this, Guan was helpless. He just couldn't understand why LV Baitian was so persistent in accepting him as his disciple. Could it be that he was conquered by my personality charm? In a blink of an eye, 5 years passed. During these 5 years, no major events happened in Xiantian Sect, and Guan's life became very dull. Yilan, Shenzhen, Liya, Jiangqiong, and Guyu were all busy practicing and rarely came to see him. Although the battle between good and evil ended quickly, it had a great impact. At noon that day, Guan came to Xian Valley through the teleportation formation. He was in a good mood and was still humming a little song. He just calculated that this year's life income is expected to exceed 100,000, and his total lifespan is now more than 700,000 years. A million years of life is very close, and he can't wait to become stronger. As soon as he arrived in Xian Valley, he felt Liya's breath, and Liya was drinking tea with Yang and I in the attic. Liya did not deliberately hide his breath, so Guan went straight to the attic. After Guan entered the house, Liya took the lead and said, "Brother Gu, I am going to leave Xiantian Sect and go to Beihai Mountain for training. I will not come back until I reach the nascent soul realm." Guan couldn't help but ask curiously, "Where is Beihai Mountain?" Liya smiled and said, "Beihai Mountain is in the north of Taizong Dynasty. The area is as large as the entire Taizong Dynasty and is surrounded by the 4 dynasties. It is a place where monsters gather. It is also a place for cultivators to train and seek opportunities. Of course, it is also very dangerous." When Guan heard this, he suddenly felt that Beihai Mountain was suitable for the next breakthrough. From the 9th level of the fusion realm to a higher realm, Guan dared not imagine the movement, so it is best to stay away from Xiantian Sect. Yang and I said, "You don't want to find the North Sea Kuan fish, do you?" Liya scratched his head and said, "You discovered this. 2 years ago, there was a rumor that the North Sea Kuan fish appeared in the North Sea Mountains. I wanted to go and see it. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I can get rid of those people arranged by my father." Guan sat down and asked, "What is the North Sea Kuan fish?" Yang and I glanced at him and said, "You should still remember the previous swallowing sky bird. There are ancient relics in this world. They are different from monsters. They are extremely huge in size and the difficulty of transformation is far beyond the monster clan. Because of their huge size, they are worshipped as mountain gods and sea gods by human races everywhere, and their whereabouts are mysterious." Guan became more interested and began to ask what other ancient relics there are in the world. Yang and I described a few sentences casually, which made him fascinated. "Okay, I should go. Recently, a monster named Anhao appeared in the sect. He started to prepare for Dan at the age of 22. It's incredible. I have to practice harder and can't be his stepping stone. Leah stood up and said. Guan heard this and felt that Enhao's cultivation speed was really fast. This shows that LV Badian thinks highly of Enhao and has invested a lot of cultivation resources. Guan was thinking about it when Leah left through the window, bad habits that can't be changed. Guan looked at Yang Yanai and asked, he's gone, what about you? I'm not leaving. It feels fun to follow you to plant flowers and plants. It's better than fighting and killing. Yang Yanai replied, thank you for the reward of 999 starting coins from Jiqiu Dizizi. Today's update starts. Chapter 93. The Xuanxin tree becomes a spirit, a realm beyond fusion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the mountain forest, Guan was leading Yang Yanai to sow seeds. While burying the soil, he looked at the herbs next to him and said, that's the Mimosa pudica. Its leaves are easy to roll up, and when the wind passes through it, it will make a singing sound. It makes strange noises, and often at times like this, you have to help it open its leaves to avoid affecting its growth. Yang Yanai squatted aside and listened carefully, his eyes full of curiosity. When Leah left, Yang Yanai said that she wanted to stay and plant flowers and grass. Guan thought it was a joke, but she didn't expect it to be true. She started to participate in the planting and always asked him about it, acting very humble. After changing his attitude, Yang Yanai began to integrate into Xuangu and communicate with other handyman disciples. Guan wanted to try to assimilate her and let her truly become a member of Xuangu, so he taught her very seriously. From now on, it will be up to you to take care of the herbs in this garden. Try your skills and see if you can protect the garden in addition to protecting people. Guan stood up and said with a smile. Yang Yanai did not refuse, but instead showed a look of expectation on her face. Afterwards, Guan left, leaving Yang Yanai to observe the garden alone. He returned to Xuangu and saw Chu Jingfeng standing in front of the wooden fence in a daze, not knowing what he was thinking. Chu Jingfeng has always been like this after coming to Xuangu for so many years. He will do things Guan asks him to do, but if Guan doesn't arrange chores, he will be in a daze and be confused. Because of their previous friendship, Guan decided to help him. Brother Chu, I just got a set of sword skills. Can you help me take a look? Guan patted Chu Jingfeng's shoulder and asked with a smile. Chu Jingfeng nodded expressionlessly, and then walked towards the deserted woods. He was also a sword cultivator. Although his cultivation was abolished, his memory was still there, so he felt that he could help Guan. Even though he usually didn't talk, he was actually very grateful to Guan. When he first came here, when facing Guan, he wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in, but Guan didn't laugh at him, but treated him very well, and he had done so for so many years. It couldn't be a lie. He couldn't understand that he still treated Guan. What is the use value? I can only think that Guan is really kind-hearted. After all, the disciples in the valley think highly of Guan. Under Chu Jingfeng's gaze, Guan performed a set of basic sword moves of the Tai Tsang Jing Shen sword. Even though his execution was bumpy and not smooth enough, Chu Jingfeng's eyes lit up. Gu. Valley Master, what kind of swordsmanship is this? Chu Jingfeng asked, suppressing his excitement. As a swordsman, how can you not feel happy when you see the profound swordsmanship? Guan scratched his head and said, I don't know either. I met a senior by chance when I went to the sky building platform. He taught me this. He said that if I can master this sword technique, I can become a human sword god. Chu Jingfeng hesitated to speak. Guan smiled and said, how about it, do you want to learn? I'll teach you. I only have one request, and that is to change back to your original self. I miss the high-spirited Chu Jingfeng very much. Even if your cultivation is gone, you can do it. There are legends about practicing swordsmanship. There was a time when there was a person who had no energy in his life and achieved enlightenment by practicing swordsmanship. If others can do it, why can't you? When Chu Jingfeng heard this, his expression changed and he fell into struggle. Finally, he agreed. In fact, he didn't want to be decadent, but he couldn't find the meaning of living. Now, he suddenly felt that Guan's words made sense. If his cultivation was gone, he couldn't practice swordsmanship. Shouldn't sword cultivators face difficulties head-on? In this way, Chu Jingfeng began to practice Tai Tsang Jing Shen sword. His speed in memorizing sword moves amazed Guan again and again, which also made him more and more confident. Late at night, 10 miles away from Xian Valley, by the river, Guan removed the gravel, opened a stone slab, and got into it. Then, the stone slab closed again, and the surrounding gravel gathered together uncontrollably, returning to form. A scene that has not been moved before. Guan followed the tunnel all the way to Baiying Cave. A 5-foot-long black dragon rushed out of the underground river and flew quickly to him. As always, he took out the corpse of the demon sheep and placed it on the ground. Haolong opened his mouth, sprayed out powerful flames, and began to roast the sheep. In 2 or 3 years, I will take you out, how about it? Guan touched Haolong's head and asked with a smile. Guan plans to release Haolong during his next breakthrough and let it survive in the mountains of Beihai. Before, he wanted Haolong to practice the art of transformation, but unfortunately there was no such art of transformation. Instead, he taught Haolong the magic shadow technique. Unfortunately, after practicing for several years, he still couldn't master it. When he heard that he could go out, Haolong immediately stopped roasting the sheep and asked excitedly where he was going. Guan briefly introduced the mountains of Beihai, which made Haolong even more yearning for them. He told it not to reveal the existence of him and Baiying Dong Tian after going out, and it promised not to reveal it. In fact, it's okay to be exposed. When Guan returns from the Beihai Mountains, he will definitely have surpassed the fusion realm. At that time, even if the entire Qianxiu Pavilion comes, they can't take away his Cangvine tree. Of course, he believed that Haolong would keep it secret. Next, you have to practice hard and don't get eaten by monsters as soon as you go out. Guan joked. Haolong raised his head proudly and said, how could a dragon be eaten by a monster? Guan rubbed its faucet and then walked towards the Tsang tree. Guan attaches great importance to this 7th-level spiritual tree. Every time he comes to Baiying Cave, he will observe it to avoid problems with it. Arriving under the tree, Guan raised his head and observed the branches of the cane tree. Looking at it, he suddenly frowned. He noticed a tremor on one of the branches. It was slight, but it was happening. Haolong was still roasting sheep not far away. It was not his fault. This tree can't become a spirit, can it? Guan thought about it and felt that it was more possible. This is the sacred tree of Qianxiu Pavilion. It must be evil. It is not impossible for it to become a spirit. Guan continued to stare, but the Xuanxin tree did not move again, as if it was really his illusion. He used his spiritual sense to explore and found no abnormality, but doing so could warn the Xuanxin tree and let it not mess around. After half an hour, Guan left. There is one more thing to pay attention to in the future. Guan is not worried about the Xuanxin tree becoming a spirit, but rather a little looking forward to it. Spring goes and spring comes, and 2 years have passed. Guan's lifespan has reached 950,000 years. He feels that he can reach a lifespan of 1 million years before the end of the year. This makes him full of expectations and energetic for the whole year. One day, Yilan came to Xian Valley to visit Guan. The two stood in front of the attic window, looking at the busy disciples and chatting. Yilan talked about the recent major events in the world of immortal cultivation, which made Guan listen with relish. A new sect appeared in the world of immortal cultivation, named Tanhua Sect. No one knew where Tanhua Sect was. The monks of this sect constantly invaded the various sects of the demonic path, robbing their skills, spells, treasures, etc., causing the demonic path to fall into a bloody storm, but the righteous sects were not affected. Some people said that Tanhua Sect was supported by Xiantian Sect, because a great demon cultivator who killed enemies with leaves appeared in Tanhua Sect, which was very similar to the sword master of Fudao of Xiantian Sect. Hearing this, Guan was very unhappy. Why is there someone to take my reputation again? You said so many things, and none of them was against Xiantian Sect. It seems that our Xiantian Sect has established an absolutely powerful reputation. Guan smiled. He was really happy. The more peaceful Xiantian Sect was, the better. Anyway, he could become stronger by planting flowers and grass. After planting for another 50 years, no one in the 9 dynasties should be stronger than him, right? Yilan thought for a moment and said, it's true. A cultivator who calls himself the Ghost Thief appeared in the world of immortal cultivation. He is both good and evil. He used to like to rob the rich and help the poor. Later, his reputation grew. Half a year ago, he threatened to come to Teixuanmen to steal the Xiantian tree, saying that Teixuanmen gathered 90% of the resources of the Taizong dynasty, which violated the way of heaven. He wanted to steal the Xiantian tree and then plant it on the edge of Tianzi. Xiantian tree. Guan frowned when he heard it. This is the 7th level spiritual tree given to him by Teixuanmen. Now it has grown up. How can it be stolen? This ghost thief has already died. Forget it, I won't kill him because his actions are in line with the spirit of chivalry, but I have to scare him so that he won't come again in the future. Guan asked curiously, is the ghost thief powerful? Of course he is powerful, otherwise he can still live to this day after offending so many people and stealing so many treasures. Yilan rolled her eyes at Guan. That's right, why ask her, she doesn't even know what realm is above the transformation of the spirit. Guan smiled, then asked her how she had been practicing recently and whether she was diligent. Although life will eventually end, he hoped that the day of his life and death with Yilan would come later. His question was criticized by Yilan. Yilan had the same idea as him, hoping that he could practice well and prolong his life. The two began to bicker. After a long while, Yilan suddenly asked, brother, do you know the current emperor? Guan raised his eyebrows and asked, junior sister, why do you ask this? The emperor launched the Spring Festival, which has covered all states since the beginning of this year. The etiquette and rules are exactly the same as your Spring Festival. Yilan said with a serious face. Guan said nonchalantly, I also heard it from an unknown old man. Besides, the Spring Festival has been held for so many years, it is normal for people to know about it. After all, the meaning is good. Yilan thought it made sense, but still reminded, recently, the higher-ups issued instructions to let us collect more information about Emperor Li Xiandao, and also sent more disciples to Cangzhou. It seems that the higher-ups have ideas about the throne. What do you mean, the sect wants to grab the throne? That's not the case. The prince is a disciple of our sect, but he has been the prince for 100 years, so the sect naturally wants to lend him a hand. Guan couldn't help but look at the woods 100 feet away to the west, and saw Yang and I watering the flowers and plants, wondering if she was eavesdropping. The two chatted for a while, and Yilan closed the window. She wanted to say something else to Guan, and even made some moves, which was severely criticized by him. Yilan glared at Guan in shame and anger, and then left. Guan looked at her leaving back, and his mind drifted to the mountains of Beihai. I have to go to the library to find a map and prepare for a breakthrough. I don't know what realm is above the fusion. Guan went downstairs and was about to go to the teleportation array, but Yang and I suddenly stopped him and said in a voice transmission, be careful of the prince. If he knows about your relationship with Liya, he will definitely come to you and plot against you. Chapter 94 Guan's background. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Isn't the prince very virtuous? Senior brother Li thinks highly of him, which means they should have a good relationship. Guan asked in a confused tone. Yang and I snorted, that's just Liya's stupidity. Over the years, the prince has sent many assassins to assassinate him, and I helped him block them once. Then why didn't you tell senior brother Li and let him take more precautions? It's not his father's intention. His father is afraid of alerting the enemy. Once the relationship is torn, the prince will definitely force the emperor to abdicate. His father's cultivation is mediocre, and he is no match for the prince. Once the prince succeeds, it will only be more dangerous for Liya. Yang Ni's answer made Guan want to laugh. Li Xiandao is almost crossing the virtual realm, isn't he a match for the prince? Thinking of this, Li Xiandao is actually Guan's fellow cultivator. So far, Li Xiandao has not revealed his cultivation. The reason why Guan knows his true cultivation is because he has opened the golden finger. I know, I will be careful of the prince. Guan replied in a voice transmission technique. Yang and I nodded and stopped stopping him. Looking at Guan's departing back, Yang and I shook her head slightly. Why do I really care about this kid's safety? But ever since Yang and I knew that Guan had a medicine valley in the inner gate, she felt that his identity was not simple. At least in Taishan Gate, he would definitely be taken care of and it would be difficult for him to get into trouble. Immediately, Yang and I stopped thinking about it. In recent days, the dusk flowers she planted with her own hands are about to bloom, and she is looking forward to the scene when the flowers bloom, on the other side. Guan came to the third medicine valley and walked all the way to the Xianqing tree. The Xianqing tree has grown into a big tree with dense leaves. The white spirit mouse is taking a nap under the tree. Since the Xianqing tree has shade, it rarely runs around and sleeps under the tree all day. Guan is not disgusted with this, but is looking forward to it. Liu Beidian once said that the Xianqing tree can not only improve the spiritual energy of a place, but also increase enlightenment under the tree. Will the white spirit mouse enter the Tao in his dream if he sleeps under the Xianqing tree all day? Experiment. If it is feasible, he will also take a nap under the tree in the future. Guan took out an ancient gold-swallowing worm from the worm bag on his waist and let it fly to the tree. Then he found Xiaochuan and asked Xiaochuan to put 100 kilograms of iron ore under the tree every month to feed the ancient gold-swallowing worm. The best thing about Xiaochuan is that he will not ask too many questions and will directly agree to this matter. After checking the Xianqing tree, Guan went to see the human face tree and purple mist bamboo in turn. After making sure that these treasures grew smoothly, he began to inspect the third medicine valley. The third medicine valley now grows many high-level medicinal herbs. When L.V. Beidian came to him last year, he specifically applied to expand the number of miscellaneous disciples. L.V. Beidian directly agreed, and the number of people soared to 300. Even with 300 people, Guan still felt that there were not enough people, but if he wanted to improve again, he had to show enough harvest to prove himself. It was not until the evening that Guan returned to the attic. He picked another batch of medicinal herbs today, harvesting thousands of years of life, getting closer and closer to the million mark. 1 month later, in the morning, after Guan led the disciples of Xuangu to practice, he returned to the attic and spread out the map on the table. This was drawn by the great monk of Xiantian Sect. There are restrictions in it. When the divine sense probes into it, you can even see the detailed terrain, which makes him feel like he is playing a VR real-life map in his previous life. No wonder the price of this map is 5 top-grade spirit stones. It is really worth the money. Guan immersed himself in it, looking for a suitable breakthrough point. Until noon, someone from Xuangu came to visit. Yang and I sent a message to Guan. The prince is here. You should be careful to deal with it yourself. I can't show up. Guan listened, slowly put away the map, and then got up and walked out of the attic. He came to the door and looked up. He saw a man in white holding a folding fan and walking over. He was elegant and smiling, looking like a weak scholar. Guan threw a lifespan probe. Li Dai, nascent soul level 1189/960/1250. He has no special cultivation methods, but his cultivation is consistent. He is less than 200 years old and is a genius. Li Dai did not walk towards Guan, but walked towards Chu Jingfeng, who was checking the garden in front of the wooden fence. Chu Jingfeng, long time no see. Li Dai greeted from a distance. Chu Jingfeng looked back and frowned. The two met and started to greet each other. Li Dai's laughter was very hearty, attracting the attention of other disciples in the valley. Facing Li Dai, Chu Jingfeng seemed very nervous. Basically, Li Dai talked about the past and he agreed. The two chatted for a long time before Li Dai walked towards Guan. He came to the attic, clasped his fists and saluted Guan upstairs, saying, I am Li Dai, from Cangzhou. May I ask if you are Guan, the master of the valley? Guan raised his hand and saluted, saying, Hello, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, I am Guan, come up to talk. Li Dai smiled and nodded, then went upstairs. The miscellaneous disciples became excited. They didn't expect that this person was actually the Crown Prince of the dynasty. Although they have already joined the Immortal Cultivation Sect, they are still very curious about the Crown Prince of the dynasty. I wonder why the Crown Prince is looking for the Master of the Valley. A few people surrounded Chu Jingfeng and asked how the two knew each other before. Guan and Li Dai chatted in the house for half an hour. When Guan sent him downstairs, he was full of smiles on his face. Before leaving, he held Guan's hand, which made Guan feel awkward. Junior brother Gu, you and I really hit it off at first sight. When I return to Xiantian Sect next time, I will talk to you again. Li Dai smiled warmly, looking innocent. Guan agreed to his request and watched him fly out of Xian Valley. The two of them didn't talk about anything before. Li Dai seemed to really come to make friends. The two even talked about Li. Li Dai's words were full of concern. If Yang and I hadn't reminded him before, Guan would have really thought that they were good brothers. Until he left, Li Dai didn't make any requests or recruit Guan. Guan could sense that there was a monk in the realm of divine transformation hiding nearby in the forest. He was probably the one protecting Li Dai. After about 10 miles away from Xian Valley, the smile on Li Dai's face disappeared and his expression became gloomy. An old man in green robes flew to his side and said softly, "Your Highness, there are Xuanxin Realm monks in the valley." "Well, I've already felt it. It's Yang and I. My father actually sent Yang and I to guard him. The relationship with this person is definitely not simple. Let's go back and check his background and his identity in Xiantian Sect." Li Dai said coldly, mentioning Yang and I, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. The old man in green robe asked, "If he has no backer, should we arrest him?" "I'll wait until I meet the sect leader first. The sect leader's attitude is very important. If the sect leader supports me, then I will kill Li and Guan directly and cut off my father's eyes and chest pieces." Li Dai replied. The two did not know that their conversation was heard by Guan. In front of Guan, the state of transformation is not much different from the ants on the roadside. "Want to kill me? That's interesting." Guan smiled, but he didn't take it to heart. Even if he stood there and didn't fight back, Li Dai and the old man in green robe would never try to kill him. Guan turned around and went upstairs. Not long after, Yang and I jumped out of the window. Yang Ni's face was gloomy and he said, "He should be aware of my presence. This kid's skills seem to have reached the advanced level." Guan asked in confusion, "Do you have a grudge?" "Nonsense, my sister's death was related to his mother, how can there be no hatred?" "Does Senior Brother Li know about this?" "I don't know, because I am also suspicious and have no evidence. This guy came to Xiantian Sect. Most likely, he wanted to establish a relationship with Zun Pavilion or the sect leader. Chu Tianqi, who supported him before, has escaped. He must find a new one. Rely. Let it be." Guan took out a book and started reading. Yang and I stood beside him and asked in surprise, "Aren't you afraid that he will catch you and plot against Li? What can I do? I'm no match for him. His Majesty asked you to look at me. I can't refuse. If he wants to kill me, I can't stop him either. It's better to just pretend it's not a problem and feel at ease. Enjoy my days." Guan replied casually, and his open-minded attitude made Yang and I couldn't help but look at him. Yang and I comforted him, "Don't worry, if he really wants to attack you, I will definitely protect you, as long as you don't run around." Guan loves to mess around so much that she would go to the outer city for a while and his medicine valley for the inner gate. She did not dare to enter these two places without permission. "Thank you for your protection, Senior. Don't worry, he shouldn't dare to mess around at the foot of Xiantian Sect." Guan smiled at Yang and I. Yang and I nodded, said no more, turned and left. Guan felt that she was hiding in the woods to practice. It seemed that she was under a lot of pressure. After coming to Xian Valley for so many years, she only practiced quietly late at night. Guan also wanted to become stronger. He brought up his attribute panel, looked at his lifespan, and raised the corners of his mouth. Soon. In a mansion, birds are singing and flowers are fragrant. The trees are covered with all kinds of bright flowers, and a small stream surrounds a small pavilion. Lu Baidian and Li Dai sat opposite each other in the pavilion. Li Dai picked up the wine pot and poured wine for Lu Baidian. "Having been a prince for 100 years, I have indeed made things difficult for you. Some voices from the people have also reached my ears over the years." Lu Baidian took the wine glass and said casually. When Li Dai heard this, he sighed and said, "My father actually did a good job, but it's a pity that his cultivation is too poor and he cannot suppress the governors and aristocratic families in various places. There is suffering and darkness hidden under the strong skin of the Taizong dynasty. I want everyone in the world to live a good life, and my mother-in-law's family has promised to fully support me." Lu Baidian looked at the stream next to him, not at Li Dai. He said casually, whoever becomes the emperor is not important to Teixuanmen. What is important is that he must be worthy of Teixuanmen's trust. Li Dai quickly assured, Xiantian sect is the authentic sect in the world. If I become the emperor, Xiantian sect can monitor my actions. Tell your people to stop investigating Guan. No matter how your royal family fights, Guan is not allowed to be involved. Lu Baidian said casually. As soon as he said this, Li Dai's face changed drastically. At this moment, Li Dai thought of many possibilities. He asked cautiously, which family does Guan come from? Guan's cultivation level was too low, and he subconsciously thought that he came from a certain aristocratic family and came to Teixuanmen to live out his life because of his mediocre qualifications. He doesn't have a family background. He only has one person's background, and that's me. Is that enough? Lu Baidian said, looking at Li Dai, who was so shocked that Li Dai broke out in cold sweat. Thanks, I just asked for a reward of 1,000 starting coins. It's the end of the month soon, please vote if you have votes. Chapter 95, 1 Million Years of Life, 5 Elements Precious Body. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Prince Li Dai came back to visit Guan less than 7 days after leaving. This time, he also brought many medicinal herb seeds, which clearly showed a lot of effort. Although it was unclear why he was so generous, Guan accepted it with appreciation and invited him to drink. The atmosphere between the two of them chatting was more pleasant than before. Until before leaving, Li Dai did not recruit him, as if he was just a good friend, but after Li Dai left, Yang Ni's eyes changed when she looked at him. This is the first time I've seen him be so attentive to someone. Yang Ni said in a complicated tone. Guan smiled and said, who told me to be kind to others, that he was not stupid, and he guessed it might be because of Lu Baidian, but he didn't know exactly what happened. Li Dai came to Teixuanmen just to find someone to support him. He would not go to the aristocratic family, so he would exclude the Ji family first. Apart from this, only Lu Baidian has such great influence. Yang Ni also guessed that there was a bigger backer behind Guan. Li Xiandao couldn't make the prince so attentive. She was curious about who Guan was. It's best not to tell your majesty about this matter. You have been with me for so many years and you should have seen my character. I don't want to fight for anything, let alone be suspected. Guan looked at Yang Ni and said seriously. Yang Ni nodded and joked, it seems that Li Ye is not your blessing, but you are Li Ye's blessing. Also, if someone like you works so diligently and cultivates so many medicinal herbs, why not fighting for power? If I were the top executive of Xiantian sect, I would like you too. Guan picked up the storage bag given by the prince, took out 100 seeds from it and handed it to Yang Ni, saying, these are all 5th level seeds. You should cultivate them carefully. If they are done well, I will give you 10% of them when they mature. I'll give you more seeds. Yang Ni took the herb seeds with a happy face and agreed immediately. Guan looked at her and was very pleased. There are many people in Sanfang Medicine Valley, but Yang Ni is the only one who really likes to grow flowers and grass. Xiaochuan prefers to raise monsters and beasts. The other disciples have to work in order to cultivate immortality. Guan has more expectations for Yang Ni. As summer passes and autumn comes, autumn colors cover Xian Valley, Tianya Valley, and the Third Medicine Valley. Teixuanmen is even more beautiful in autumn, with autumn leaves covering the mountains and rivers as far as the eye can see. Near the end of autumn, this afternoon, Tianya Valley. Guan wrapped the newly picked herbs with spiritual paper, and 3 lines of prompts appeared in front of him. You successfully captured the 52-year lifespan of deer bone grass, level 5. Your lifespan exceeds 1 million years for the first time. Turn on the lifespan prediction function. Life prediction enemy. When turned on, cause and effect will be automatically identified. When a creature becomes hostile to your true self, a prompt will appear, indicating that it does not consume lifespan. Detecting the lifespan of the other party will consume lifespan. Looking at the function in front of him, Guan was stunned. What a good thing. This thing can inform potential enemies and help them avoid risks. He immediately turned on the lifespan warning, but there is no prompt yet, and the screening may start from now on. Guan's mood became happy. He felt that this function was of great significance. He did not have to wait for so many years in vain. Moreover, he had already saved enough to live for 1 million years and could make a breakthrough soon. He began to move faster, harvesting the mature herbs in Qianya Valley, and moved them all into the warehouse. He found that all the herbs in the warehouse had been taken away and were empty. He didn't think much, put away the herbs and left. As soon as he left the warehouse, Lu Xian walked up to him and said, "Don't leave in a hurry. I haven't taught you how to practice Xuanwu Jingtai Palm today." He has taught Guan 8 kinds of spells. 2 years ago, he decided to start over and study one technique in depth. He didn't believe it, someone could really be that stupid. He was prepared to fight Guan for 50 years, after 50 years of practicing a magic, even a pig should be able to master it, right? Guan pushed him away and said, "Not today, maybe next time." Lu Xian was pushed away by Guan and couldn't help but be stunned. How dare this guy push him? He was actually pushed. No. Lu Xian held Guan's shoulders and prevented him from leaving. Guan had no choice but to turn around and say, "I seem to have mastered the black tortoise palm. Can you take a look?" "Really? Try it quickly." Lu Xian immediately let go and urged excitedly. Guan walked to the open space, then raised his palm to shoot. In an instant, a wave of air surged out from his palm, setting off wave-like signs in the mid-air in front of him, which were several feet long. He then closed his palm and said, "I'm not lying to you. I practice hard in private. I have other things to do. You can teach me how to become stronger next time." After saying that, he jumped up and flew towards the sky. Lu Xian did not try to persuade him anymore, but stood there with a frown on his face. For a long time, Lu Xian couldn't help but murmured, "There is no move to push forward, and there is no air behind you. This is the state of sending and receiving freely." After returning to Xian Valley, Guan first went to the third Medicine Valley, collected all the herbs that needed to be collected, and then returned to Xian Valley. He found Yang Ni and told him that he would be away for another 2 days and had to go to the inner gate for business. Yang Ni had no doubts. He left at dusk, flew towards the outer gate city, made a big circle, and then returned to the vicinity of Xian Valley. When night fell, he sneaked into the 8 Views cave and brought Haolong out. Haolong was very excited and looked left and right. Guan took it directly and left Taixunmen. He stepped on the Wuji Wutang Xiantian step, bypassed the Taishan gate, and then rushed towards the mountains of Beihai. Haolong was very surprised by Guan's footwork, but he was not shocked, because in his heart, the master was the closest person, and he had not seen other people and had not formed a worldview. The Beihai Mountains were more than 300,000 miles away from Taixunmen. Along the way, Guan kept performing the Wuji Wuzong Xiantian step and rushed at full speed without stopping. As soon as he arrived near the Beihai Mountains, Guan put Haolong down. "Master, goodbye." Haolong left excitedly after saying this. Guan smiled, then put on a mask, changed into a black suit, and continued on his way. He was going to break through deep in the Beihai Mountains. The Beihai Mountains are surrounded by mountains and the sea. The Beihai is actually a lake, but this lake is as big as the ocean. Guan stepped forward in the air and saw the Beihai from afar. Under the moonlight, the sea surface was sparkling, and there was fog surging. Looking around, it was really boundless. Along the way, he saw a giant fish that was 100 feet long leaping out of the lake, stretching its body in the air, which was very spectacular. There are not only monsters in the mountains of Beihai, but also cultivators and ghosts. Guan felt that there were cultivators fighting, and their cultivation was not weak. They were 2 Xuanxin Realm cultivators. He just glanced at them and passed by quickly without stopping. Break through first and then enjoy the scenery. I don't know where Liya is. Guan thought so in his heart, and his consciousness spread out to find a suitable breakthrough point. Half an hour later, Guan came to a deep mountain. He walked under a big tree to meditate. There was no trace of people within a radius of 3,000 miles, and even monsters were rare. Only ghosts were floating around, so this mountain forest was very gloomy and full of ghosts. Guan directly opened the life barrier and made himself invisible first. Then, he called up his attribute panel. Name, Guan. Lifespan, 58/1002060. Spiritual roots, top grade 5 element heavenly spiritual roots. Cultivation, 9th level of the fusion realm. Kung Fu, fire control art, beginning to learn. Yanmu Hunyuan Gong, mastered. Xianhuang Dragon Qigong, reached the pinnacle. alchemy. Slightly accomplished, Wangu Xian Gong, not yet completed, Yin Yang art, not yet completed, Dao Yen Gong, not yet completed. Looking at the 7-digit lifespan, he felt a sense of accomplishment. He planned to invest 100,000 years of life in his spiritual roots, Yangmu Hunyuan Gong, and Xianhuang Dragon Qigong, and then improve his cultivation. As for spells, unique skills, and magical powers, he could spend less lifespan, because he rarely fought anyway. Guan directly invested 100,000 years of life in his spiritual roots. No matter what the result was, he would stop and never spend more. You invest 100,000 years of your life in your spiritual roots for evolution and cultivation. You comprehend the nature of heaven and earth for 1,000 years, and your 5-element spiritual roots are more sensitive. You comprehend the nature of heaven and earth for 2,000 years, and your 5-element spiritual roots are more sensitive. You comprehend the nature of heaven and earth for 7,000 years, and finally feel the true meaning of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, and your top-grade 5-element spiritual roots are tempered. You comprehend the nature of heaven and earth for 56,000 years, and finally feel the true meaning of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, and your top-grade 5-element spiritual roots are tempered. Prompts popped up crazily in front of Guan, and although he had been prepared for it, his face still darkened. Perhaps he shouldn't have improved his spiritual roots, and the top-grade 5-element spiritual roots were enough, but he had already spent money, so he could only bear it. Although there was no transformation, the tempering should make him more qualified. Guan comforted himself in this way. The prompts continued. You have comprehended the nature of heaven and earth for 70,000 years, and finally felt the true meaning of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Your top-grade 5-element heavenly spiritual roots have been tempered. You have comprehended the nature of heaven and earth for 80,000 years, and finally felt the true meaning of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Your top-grade 5-element heavenly spiritual roots have undergone a transformation, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has enveloped you, and you have entered the state of nirvana. You have comprehended the nature of heaven and earth for 90,000 years, and you have successfully achieved nirvana. The top-grade 5-element heavenly spiritual roots have merged with the body and soul, and have been promoted to the 5-element treasure body. You have comprehended the nature of heaven and earth for 100,000 years, and your 5-element treasure body has been tempered. Seeing the 5-element treasure body, Guan's expression was lifted, and he felt that there was a way out, and his efforts paid off. Cool. Guan's mood just jumped, and the underground spiritual energy began to riot, and the terrifying and violent spiritual energy rushed towards him. This posture was more exaggerated than his breakthrough to the 9th level of the fusion realm. Sorry, the creatures of the North Sea Mountains, I will scare you next. Guan began to immerse himself in the wonderful process of spiritual energy tempering. Creatures from all over the Beihai Mountains felt the spiritual energy sinking one after another. In less than 15 breaths, even those on the edge of the Beihai Mountains could feel this abnormality. In a valley, Li Xiandao, dressed in white, was meditating on the array platform. There were thousands of pill bottles and storage bags on the platform. There were flags outside the array platform. There were flags and talismans on the walls around the valley, which was dazzling. Li Xiandao opened his eyes and frowned. A spiritual energy sinking again. What is going on? Why is this happening even in the Beihai Mountains? Li Xiandao muttered to himself, with an uneasy look in his eyes. Thanks to Panda Kansha for rewarding 700 starting coins, Jicho Dazizi for rewarding 233 starting coins, Guangguang Ikan Haoshu for rewarding 100 starting coins. Chapter 96, The Xiantian Realm, Breaking Through to the 9th Level of the Xuanxin Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside the cave, the fire flickered. Liya was sitting on a stone, his upper body was bare, and he was wrapping wounds all over his body with white cloth. Blood was seeping out, which was very scary, but he didn't frown. There was a soul floating next to him. It was a tall old man, stroking his beard and looking at him. You can withstand the poison of the 1,000-handed demonic vine, and your body has become stronger again. The ancestor praised. Liya said calmly, it's not enough. Compared with Lu Xian and Ji Xiaoyu, it's nothing at all. What's more, another and Hao has appeared in the sect. It is said that that guy's talent is even more exaggerated than Lu Xian and the other two. The ancestor laughed and said, "They are natural geniuses. You are different. You are a genius who works hard. You may not be able to surpass them. In my opinion, innate qualifications are not the most important. The most important thing is the perseverance of Taoism. And a fighting spirit that refuses to give up." Li Ye nodded and was about to answer when suddenly the flames on the fire shook violently, and Li Ye's expression changed drastically. "The spiritual energy is sinking." Li Ye frowned, and his ancestor also frowned. The ancestor frowned and said, "Is it not a man-made disaster, but a natural disaster? What does this portend?" That he counted with his fingers, but unfortunately, nothing could be calculated. When the spiritual energy of the Beihai Mountains began to sink, monster beasts roared one after another in the sky and the earth. The monks hiding in the caves ran out one after another, and those fighting monks had to stop. Under the tree, Guan was surrounded by 5-color auras. At first glance, he looked like a bare egg, but he was meditating in it, his body motionless. He also heard roars from all directions, and such noises could no longer scare him. This is just the beginning. After improving the spiritual roots, one has to improve the skills, and then the cultivation level. The spiritual energy of the Beihai Mountains is very rich, and is definitely not comparable to that near Xuangu. Even if the spiritual energy begins to sink, it will have little impact on the overall spiritual energy of the Beihai Mountains. As time passed, Guan's attention began to fall on the consumption of the lifespan barrier. Don't be careless. He had a hunch that the lifespan consumed by the lifespan barrier this time was not a small amount, and he did not want to die from exhaustion of lifespan. Half an hour later, Guan was completely transformed into the 5 elements treasure body. He could feel the changes in his entire physical body. His energy, blood, and strength became stronger, his spiritual power was generated faster, and his senses also experienced earth-shaking changes. He even felt that the 5 elements of spiritual energy around him merged with him. This feeling was so wonderful, Guan suppressed his joy and prepared to delve into the subtleties of the 5 elements treasure body in the future, but now he had to continue to work hard. First, practice the Xuanxin Qigong. This thing allows him to hide his cultivation and aura, which is really the most important thing. 100,000 years, invest. Line after line of prompts jumped out crazily, and Guan looked carefully. The Xuanxin Qigong was promoted to the earthly god Qigong, and the earthly god Qigong was promoted to the innate Rui Kung. Promoted twice. Not bad. Memories about the innate Rui Kung flooded into his mind. The innate Rui Kung not only multiplies the ability to conceal one's cultivation and aura, but also awakens the magical power. Big and small Rui, covering objects with spiritual power, can shrink and enlarge any existence, including living beings and himself. This magical power allows Guan to truly feel the mystery of the immortal way. Guan was immersed in enlightenment and forgot about external objects. Distance. Li Xiandao, who was meditating on the platform, took out a compass and began to perform spell deductions. The pointers on the compass jumped wildly, and his face became solemn because of this. After a while, the beating speed of the pointer slowed down. Although it was still trembling slightly, the hexagram was revealed. The secret is hidden and difficult to see for thousands of years. Li Xiandao murmured to himself, and then he frowned with joy and said to himself, although the spiritual energy is sinking and it is not suitable for practicing to overcome the tribulation, what I need is not the spiritual energy, but the means to overcome the tribulation. The secret of heaven is hidden for me. Isn't it the perfect time? He frowned again, hesitating, because he didn't know the reason for the sinking of spiritual energy. If it was done by the great monk, would he get into trouble if he was here to survive the tribulation? But when he thought of the situation in the court, Li Xiandao gritted his teeth. Cross. It is better to die in a catastrophe than to die in court. His goal is not only the realm of crossing the void, but also the realm of integration. He wants to be an immortal emperor, just like the mythical emperor of heaven. Li Xiandao put down the compass and raised his arms. In an instant, the formations in the valley were activated one after another, and curtains of light rose up. The spiritual energy in the formations coiled into a cyclone above his head, and gradually condensed into dark clouds. He waved his sleeves, and the mouths of all the elixir bottles opened. After doing all this, he raised his eyes. The sky was dim and thunderclouds were rolling. The light of the formation clearly illuminated the calamity clouds above his head. The gathering power of heaven made his eyes gradually become determined. He must succeed. Inheriting the innate Rui Kung Fu took Guan another half an hour, but he felt it was fast. This technique was far more complex than the previous technique, and it could be passed down to him in a short period of time as if he had practiced it for 100,000 years. This showed that the lifespan of Golden Finger is also getting stronger. He was worried before that as his cultivation level gets higher and higher, the time for breakthrough in reality will also be lengthened. In the future, it will take several days to pass on any skill and it will take several months to achieve breakthrough. Is that okay? Fortunately, he didn't worry too much. Guan took a look at the lifespan consumed by the lifespan barrier. The situation was not bad. Continue. Guan devoted his life of 100,000 years towards Yangmu Hunyuan Gong. The prompt to refresh the screen appeared in front of him again, but it did not distract him. Yangmu Hunyuan Gong was promoted to Xiantian Earth Immortal Gong. He was promoted only once, but the word Xian made Guan look forward to it. 2 Xiantian techniques have appeared tonight, which made Guan think of the Xiantian Dao Fu in Ji Xiaoyu's body. Is Xiantian a stage? If so, wouldn't Ji Xiaoyu be born with the advantage of ordinary people's efforts for hundreds of thousands of years? No wonder he is so evil. Guan sighed in his heart, and then the huge inheritance memory occupied his thoughts. The spiritual energy sank again, making the hearts of the people in Beihai Mountain Ridge, which had just settled down, hang again. A series of figures emitting powerful auras kept passing over the woods where Guan was, and there were even huge monsters as big as mountains, but no one noticed that there was a person hiding in this woods, and he was the culprit of the sinking of spiritual energy. This night, Beihai Mountain Ridge is destined to be restless. After more than half an hour, Guan opened his eyes and looked at the remaining 680,000 years of life, and he breathed a sigh of relief. The life barrier has consumed more than 10,000 years of life, and he began to feel that the situation was not too good. He looked at the cultivation level. He was about to invest his life, but suddenly he heard a battle pressure from the east, which made him frown. The Battle of the Fusion Realm. It was not too far from him, about 200 miles away. This distance was very close for the Fusion Realm. Guan was not in a hurry to break through, and waited until the other party was far away from this area. What if he broke through and 2 fusion realms broke into his life barrier? Alas, if the life barrier could be upgraded in the future. Guan sighed in his heart, but he did not panic. If they really broke in, they would only be killed. It is not easy to cultivate to the fusion realm. I hope they can take care of themselves. Fortunately, things did not develop in the worst-case scenario that Guan imagined. The 2 great fusion realm masters fought for a while and then began to chase each other and disappeared in the distance. Let's do it. Let's calm down for 100,000 years first. After 100,000 years, the breakthrough should be successful. You have devoted 100,000 years of your life to practice evolution. You have been practicing Qi for 500 years. You have used your great accomplishments in Xiantian Dixian Gong to forcibly impact the Xuanxin Realm and began to overcome the tribulation. You did not survive the Tsang Yuan 5 Spirits Heavenly Tribulation and failed to overcome the tribulation. You have been practicing Qi for 1,500 years. You have used your great accomplishments in Xiantian Dixian Gong to forcibly impact the Xuanxin Realm and began to overcome the tribulation. You did not survive the Tsang Yuan 5 Spirits Heavenly Tribulation and failed to overcome the tribulation. It is acceptable to overcome the tribulation once every 1,000 years, which indicates that his tolerance is very high. He should be able to overcome the tribulation successfully after 100 times, right? He has improved 2 techniques. Failure. 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 The constant failures stimulated Guan's eyes. Before consuming 50,000 years of his life, he thought it was okay and acceptable. When he failed at 67,500 years, he began to grit his teeth. He failed for the 68th time. Who can stand this? The failures continue. You have been practicing Qi for 81,500 years. You have used your great attainments in Xiantian Gong to forcibly impact the Xuanxin Realm and begin to transcend the tribulation. You did not survive the Tsangyuan 5 spirits' heavenly tribulation and failed to transcend the tribulation. You have been practicing Qi for 82,500 years. You have used your great attainments in Xiantian Gong to forcibly impact the Xuanxin Realm and begin to transcend the tribulation. You survived the Tsangyuan 5 spirits' heavenly tribulation and succeeded in transcending the tribulation. Your cultivation has broken through to the first level of the Xuanxin Realm. You have been practicing Qi for 83,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the second level of the Xuanxin Realm. You have been practicing Qi for 84,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the third level of the Xuanxin Realm. You have been practicing Qi for 99,000 years. You have used your great attainments in Xiantian Gong to forcibly impact the Mahayana realm and begin to transcend the tribulation. You did not survive the Xianhuang 5 gods' heavenly tribulation and failed to transcend the tribulation. You have been practicing Qi for 100,000 years. You are still preparing to transcend the tribulation. When the last prompt fell, Guan breathed a sigh of relief, the 9th level of the Xuanxin Realm. The next level is Mahayana. Guan secretly sighed. It is not difficult to break through the small realm, the most difficult thing is to overcome the tribulation. It is too exaggerated, there will be no hundreds or thousands of failures in the future, right? The earth's spiritual energy surged towards Guan again, and the movement was not as big as before. After all, it was an investment of 100,000 years of life. Guan called up the attribute panel. Looking at the remaining 580,000 years of life, he hesitated in his heart. Should he break through another level of the realm, or improve his magical powers? The infinite and traceless Xiantian step and the great yin and yang transformation must be improved, which can help him escape and hide his identity. In addition to these two attack methods must be improved. Thinking about it this way, why do I feel that my life is a bit insufficient? Or use less attack methods? Anyway, he will not fight across realms, and what's more, the spells and unique skills he currently masters are considered extremely profound in the 9 dynasties Xiantian world. Guan began to improve his cultivation while struggling. The vast spiritual energy continued to flow into his body, causing his cultivation to begin to grow, and his robe fluttered violently, as if it would be torn at any time. Thanks to the book friend 20240629133137685 for rewarding 240 starting coins, Jiqiu Dizizi. For rewarding 100 starting coins, and Shiyu for rewarding 100 starting coins. Guan, how should I choose? QAQ. Chapter 97 Breakthrough to the 8th level of Mahayana Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While Guan was enjoying the improvement of his cultivation, the spiritual energy of the Beihai Mountain sank again, and this time it caused a strong wind, as if a storm was coming. Monsters, monks, and ghosts hid, waiting for the spiritual energy to sink this time. They didn't know what happened, and could only pray that the disaster would end soon. In a valley somewhere, Li Xiandao had already begun to overcome the tribulation. A cloud of thunder was suspended above the valley, not at the same height as the thunder in the sky, but only a little higher than the hills around the valley. This cloud of tribulation was accumulating the power of heaven, and wisps of lightning were swirling in the cloud, looming and shocking. Li Xiandao was practicing on the formation platform, and golden dragon shadows surrounded him, making his robes flutter. After a while, Li Xiandao suddenly opened his eyes and looked up suddenly, only to see a bolt of sky thunder suddenly struck from the cloud of tribulation. Boom! The outermost array formed a light curtain to resist the thunder. Before the light curtain dissipated, the second and third thunder struck down one after another. For a moment, the valley changed from light to dark. Li Xiandao raised his hand, and a sword appeared in his hand. When the sword came out, a dragon roared spontaneously, and the blade was surrounded by blood, as if thousands of evil spirits were roaring and howling inside. He nailed the sword to his side, then closed his eyes, and kept casting spells with both hands. The spiritual power flowed into the array from all directions. Along the array, pieces of spiritual stones flew out from his storage bag, densely packed, and quickly covered the empty space of the array. He closed his eyes and opened his mouth. One by one, spiritual pills flew out of the bottle and automatically flew into his mouth, making his momentum rise steadily. There was a strong wind in the night sky, and there was a faint thunder. From the sky, the valley here was so small. It was placed in the dark and boundless Beihai Mountains, like a faint star in the night sky. Time passed quickly. After an hour of precipitation, Guan finally reached the first level of Xuanxin Realm, and now began to impact the 9th level of Xuanxin Realm. After reaching Xuanxin Realm, his heart changed, shining with golden light, flowing with golden blood, and even a rune appeared on the surface of the heart. This rune was very mysterious, like some kind of mark. Guan enjoyed the spiritual energy infusion while feeling the rune on his heart. In the dark, he got some enlightenment, innate magical power. The Xuanxin rune can breed its own magical power, but the breeding time and strength are unknown. What kind of magical power can be bred depends on the experience and accumulated attainments of the practitioner in this life. The magical power bred by each person is different. Guan was immersed in this kind of fortune and couldn't extricate himself. Through the Xuanxin rune, he had new ideas about his many Taoist methods and began to sort out his cultivation results. At the same time, his cultivation realm broke through one after another. Xuanxin Realm Level 2. Xuanxin Realm Level 3. Xuanxin Realm Level 4. Guan suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the sky above the woods. Under the night sky, a lightning appeared above the woods. It did not fall from the sky, but appeared out of thin air, and it did not flash away. It was still hanging in the air, twisting wantonly, like a struggling worm. What is that? Guan frowned, feeling a little uneasy. The lightning began to split, producing several lightnings, and then the space between the lightnings suddenly tore, and a black crack appeared. A figure with disheveled hair jumped out of it, revealing a white skin under the light of lightning. Judging from her figure, it was a woman, with only pieces of rags hanging on her body, unable to cover her shame. It was obvious that her robe had just been torn not long ago. Guan felt the other person's breath and was secretly shocked. He immediately sent a lifespan probe. Lu Lingjun, 9th level of Fusion Realm 1989/2750/3700. An old monster who is nearly 2000 years old. This is definitely the oldest person Guan has ever seen. And the cultivation level of the 9th level of Fusion Realm is comparable to LV Badian. What is the origin of this person? Lu Lingjun was suspended in the air. The black cracks behind her began to shrink and quickly disappeared. Along with the lightning, she took out a set of blue Taoist robes from the storage ring to cover her graceful body. She then took out a belt and wrapped it around her waist. Guan no longer cared about offending the difference between men and women. He just wanted to know where this woman came from. Lu Lingjun's long hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a delicate and perfect face, but her brows were slightly frowned, and her eyes were full of confusion. One of her hair fell off, and then turned into a white snake, falling on her shoulder. Guan threw out the lifespan probe again. By Ling Demon Emperor. 8th level of Fusion Realm 4678/6280/8300. A demon pet of the Fusion Realm. Who exactly is this woman? Bai Ling Demon Emperor spit out a snake tongue and uttered a light female voice. Such a rich spiritual energy. It seems that we have succeeded in ascending, and the legend is not fabricated. Fly. Ascend? Guan was stunned. These two words contained too much information. Lu Lingjun frowned and said softly, "When I was traveling before, the power of the thunder was really terrible, and I almost turned into ashes. I flew in the direction where the thunder was weakest, and then I came to this world. Judging from the richness of the spiritual energy, it is indeed richer than our mortal world, but whether I can ascend successfully or not, I still have to walk." The Demon Emperor Bai Ling looked into the distance and said, "The spiritual energy here is sinking, and there is a demonic energy of the Fusion Realm in the distance. It is obvious that the ascension was successful. We have traveled in the mortal world for 200 years before, and we have traveled all over the world. I am the only demon in the Fusion Realm, and there are no more than 5 humans. Only in the legendary Tianling world can you encounter people in the Fusion Realm everywhere." Tianling world? Guan became more curious when he heard this. It seems that these two guys came from a world weaker than this world. No one knows how big this world is. Jiuqiao is just a corner of this continent. No one knows what is hidden on the other side of the ocean. At least Guan doesn't think that the fusion realm can become the pinnacle of this continent, let alone how high the strongest realm in this world is. Immortals and gods are just legends, illusory, but the world of immortal cultivation in this world is very vast. In addition to being amazed at the size of the world, Guan also felt relieved. He thought that some powerful force had descended on the land of Jiuqiao. In that case, the 9th level of Xuanxin Realm would not be enough. This person and demon ascended here, and they have no background. It will probably take time for them to integrate into this world. Lu Lingjun and Bai Ling Demon Emperor did not know that there were people below. They spread their spiritual senses and confirmed that there were no people or demons within a radius of 500 miles. Only then did they dare to communicate without any defense. They chatted for a while, and then flew to the south. They felt that the human race in the south was the most angry, and the demonic energy in the north was too heavy. It's bad, I hope they don't go to Taixunmen. Guan prayed secretly. Hearing what they said, Guan suspected that the reason they succeeded in ascending was because of the benefit of the life barrier. The life barrier can avoid the heavenly tribulation, which can naturally weaken the heavenly thunder. This can also explain why they landed just above Guan's head after breaking the space. Guan was full of emotion. There are actually ascenders in the world. People who can kill from a world are definitely ruthless characters. With their methods, they can probably continue to laugh and be arrogant. No. The 9th level of the Xuanxin Realm is unstable. Let's postpone the improvement of supernatural powers and reach the Mahayana realm first. Like Lu Lingjun and Bai Ling Demon Emperor, no matter how terrifying their methods are, they can't reach the Mahayana realm in 100 years, right? Guan directly called up the attribute panel. Although his cultivation level has not yet been improved, he is ready to start Krypton directly. Just continue to absorb spiritual energy later. As usual, a breakthrough in 100,000 years. Be more generous. You invest 100,000 years of life in your cultivation to practice evolution. You absorb Qi and practice for 1,000 years. You forcefully impact the Mahayana realm with the great attainments of Xiantian Dixian Gong and start to overcome the tribulation. You did not survive the Xianhuang 5 gods' heavenly tribulation and failed to overcome the tribulation. You absorb Qi and practice for 3,000 years. You forcefully impact the Mahayana realm with the great attainments of Xiantian Dixian Gong and start to overcome the tribulation. You did not survive the Xianhuang 5 gods' heavenly tribulation and failed to overcome the tribulation. Guan felt a little guilty about overcoming the tribulation once every 2,000 years, even if the life consumed by evolutionary practice is more than the life consumed by actual practice in reality. This can also show how difficult the Mahayana realm is. Xiantian Sect was established thousands of years ago, but there is no record of Mahayana in the library. Guan is ready to invest another 100,000 years of life. Anyway, the life invested is just a number, and it will be real after it turns into cultivation. Failure. 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 The final result is as he expected, 100,000 years wasted. He frowned and invested another 100,000 years. The prompt appeared again, and the constant failure paralyzed his heart, and his blood pressure was rising. How could a great cultivator of the 9th level of Xuanxin Realm be so easily angry? But Guan couldn't control his emotions now. Finally, Guan saw the word success, and he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief, and a smile bloomed on his face. You have been cultivating Qi for 87,000 years. With your great accomplishments in Xiantian Dixian Gong, you have forcibly impacted the Mahayana realm and started to transcend the tribulation. You have survived the heavenly tribulation of the 5 gods of Xianhuang and succeeded in transcending the tribulation. Your cultivation has broken through to the first level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating Qi for 88,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the second level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating Qi for 92,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the 5th level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating Qi for 94,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the 6th level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating Qi for 96,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the 7th level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating Qi for 99,000 years. Your cultivation has broken through to the 8th level of the Mahayana realm. You have been cultivating qi for 100,000 years. Your cultivation has increased, 8th level of the Mahayana realm. 200,000 years of life. Guan was a little scared when he thought about it, but fortunately he succeeded. The consumption after the successful tribulation was not bad, indicating that the improvement of spiritual roots and skills was useful. He still remembered that from the 1st level to the 9th level of the fusion realm, he invested a total of 18,000 years of life. After the 5th level of the fusion realm, each level requires 3,000 years of life to break through. The cultivation of the Mahayana realm must be more difficult, and it can also shorten the time, which is enough to prove that the previous improvement of spiritual roots and skills is effective, and this effect will continue to affect him in reality. At this moment, Guan regained his confidence. Let's not talk about how strong the strongest person on this continent is, and don't think about how vast overseas is. Just talking about the land of the 9 dynasties, he can walk sideways. LV Badian, who is at the 9th level of the fusion realm, can suppress the demons of the Taizong dynasty and dare not invade. The Taizong dynasty is not the bottom of the 9 dynasties. Even if there are stronger beings in other dynasties, they should only be in the Xuanxin Realm. Thanks to Jiqiu Dizizi for rewarding 233 starting coins, and bookfriend 20200619055300261 for rewarding 100 starting coins. Are you satisfied with this state? Tomorrow is a new month, please leave your monthly votes for me. I will try to update 4 chapters tomorrow. Chapter 98 The Terrifying Mahayana Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The rising sun emitted light, and the sunlight streaked across the North Sea, across the mountains, and passed through the forest where Guan was located. At this moment, his cultivation has reached the 7th level of the Mahayana realm, and he is approaching the 8th level. Guan brought up the attribute panel and saw that he still had 370,000 years of life left, and felt that he could improve his combat skills. But we can't continue today. After a night of tossing, the spiritual energy in this area became thinner. He was afraid of damaging the ecology of the Beihai Mountains, and would wait for some time before the Beihai Mountains regained their spiritual energy. The next goal is to accumulate tens of millions of years of life. This number is scary just thinking about it, but Guan is full of fighting spirit. The life of an immortal cultivator is so long, he can take his time and first think about which spells, magical powers, and unique skills are better to improve. Time continues to pass. When Guan reached the 8th level of the Mahayana realm, the speed at which his body absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth slowed down. He waited patiently for the break to be over. 1 night passed, and the lifespan barrier consumed more than 20,000 years of life. This shows how big the movement caused by Guan was. Guan spread out his consciousness and wanted to see how big the coverage area of his consciousness was now. A large number of mountains and rivers fell into Guan's field of vision. He saw many monsters, ghosts, monks, and even a huge mountain of ancient relics. Guan enjoyed the beauty of Mahayana spiritual consciousness. Suddenly, he saw an acquaintance, Li Xiandao. This guy was going through a tribulation in a valley. When Guan saw the formations in the valley, as well as the spiritual stones and bottles, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. No wonder Li Xiandao broke through so quickly. Not only was he extremely talented, he also spent so much on resources. Guan couldn't help but feel heartbroken when he thought about how he relied solely on his physical body to survive the calamity during his evolution and cultivation. Never mind, it can't be compared like this. After all, in reality, he has never survived the tribulation at all, so he should be content. Guan observed for a while and felt that Li Xiandao should be safe in overcoming the tribulation. Immediately, he looked elsewhere, mainly to see where Li Ye was. Soon, his consciousness captured Li Ye's aura. The boy was hiding in a cave and looked like he was injured again. Oh, what a reckless guy, don't die outside. Guan decided to go to Li Ye later and give advice to Li Ye in another capacity. The old man inside Li Ye is not very good. Guan also saw how long this guy was bullying a group of little monsters. He was majestic, and he was shouting that he wanted to be the king. In the end, Guan's consciousness enveloped the entire Beihai Mountains, and every corner of the Beihai Mountains was in his eyes. This feeling of overlooking everything fascinated him. Those monsters and monks in the fusion realm became no different from ordinary creatures in his eyes. it has to be said that Beihai Mountains is really a hidden dragon and crouching tiger. He can feel no less than 100 fusion realm auras here. Of course, there are very few people who have reached the 9th level of fusion realm, less than 5 fingers, including those who have not yet left Beihai Mountains. Lu Lingjun, Guan enjoyed his own strength. When his cultivation stopped growing and his body no longer absorbed spiritual energy, he lifted the lifespan barrier and stood up. He stretched out, and the sun shone on him through the gaps in the leaves. He felt like he had been reborn. Sure enough, no achievement, fame, fortune, or emotion in the world can compare to the feeling of becoming stronger. Liya walked out of the cave. The sun shone on him, making him frown and squint. His upper body was covered with white cloth and there were patches of blood. He raised his right hand and made a move from the air. A heavy sword flew out of the hole and landed on his hand, causing his right arm to shake and a look of pain on his face. Boy, as soon as the wound has healed, you have to practice swordplay. Are you underestimating the weight of Beihai Pluto iron, or overestimating the power of Dragon Elephant Divine Essence? The ancestor's voice sounded in Liya's ears, his tone helpless. Liya grinned and said, I have to seize the time to practice. There is not much time left for me. I have to catch up with the time you mentioned for the Holy Land to recruit disciples. The ancestor said angrily, it's not like we have to go to that Holy Land. It's the path that the family follows. But didn't you say that the Li family once reached a level of glory comparable to that of the Zhou family and the Gu family? Although I don't want to be a prince, I am responsible for the prosperity of the Li family. Liya picked up the Beihai Pei and walked towards the open space ahead. Behind him was a hill, surrounded by woods, with only a 5-foot wide open space. After last night's vision, the open space was filled with all kinds of gravel and fallen leaves, and the sea of clouds in the sky was torn into pieces. The sunlight passed through them, forming streaks of rainbow light, which was beautiful and psychedelic. Liya gritted his teeth and waved the heavy sword in his hand. This sword was forged by his ancestor under his guidance. It is made from Stygian iron, a specialty of the North Sea. It is very rare to find. This sword weighs 10,000 kilograms. After injecting spiritual power, the weight will double. Without using spiritual power, it was very difficult for Liya's injured body to swing it. Sudden. A strong gust of wind swept from the depths of the woods. Liya was so startled that he turned around and subconsciously raised his sword to resist. Bang! Liya was knocked out and hit the mountain wall. The gravel flew away. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. When he landed, he punched the heavy sword in his hand on the ground. Even so, he still half knelt down. The white cloth on his body quickly turned red, and wounds all over his body opened. Humph, human boy, hand over the Dragon Elephant Divine Essence. A hoarse voice came, and a demon figure walked out of the woods. It was a man in a black robe, with a fox head and a human body. He was surrounded by demonic energy, and his hands had sharp claws, as if each of them held 5 sharp knives. Liya stared at the other party, gritted his teeth and spat out the other party's name, Poisonous Fox King. The Poisonous Fox King stared at Liya, his brows suddenly frowned, and his face became ferocious. You were poisoned by my fox poison, but you can still stand. Have you swallowed the Dragon Elephant Divine Essence? At the end, his voice became sharp, shaking the surrounding trees. Liya held the hilt of the sword with both hands, breathing heavily, and shouted in his heart, Ancestor, I still have to rely on you. The ancestor couldn't help but wail, do you really think that my soul power is endless? These few nights just saving you has almost exhausted me. I don't believe it, you say so every time. Asshole. How could my Li family produce such an unfilial descendant like you? Who told you to live in my body, deliberately devour my spiritual power, change the appearance of my spiritual roots, and let me be detected as a mixed spiritual root talent? You. Liya and the ancestor cursed in their hearts, and they became more and more excited, making him cough. The resentful Fox King walked towards him, locking him with murderous intent, making him feel like he was in a cold cellar. Just then, Liya's eyes suddenly darkened, and he subconsciously raised his eyes and saw a dark purple figure standing in front of him. It was him. Li thought that when he was severely injured by Elder Chen outside Xian Valley, it was this mysterious demon cultivator who saved him. According to the ancestors, this demon cultivator used the magic shadow magic of Xianxiu Pavilion. Li racked his brains before, but he couldn't figure out what the relationship between him and Xianxiu Pavilion was, and he could only attribute it to coincidence. But now, he was shocked, this mysterious demon cultivator appeared again. Guan, who performed the great yin-yang transformation, looked at the venomous Fox King and sensed that the other party was only comparable to the existence of the God Transformation Realm. To be on the safe side, he still threw a lifespan probe. Anyway, this thing doesn't cost life. Venomous Fox King, 4th level of God Transformation 1409/2900/3400, well, a very honest monster. The venomous Fox King couldn't see through Guan's cultivation, and suddenly became nervous and asked, "Who are you?" Guan raised his hand and pointed to the distance, signaling him to leave quickly. Guan didn't like to kill opponents without any grudges. He could already take the life of herbs, so he wanted to leave some room for his humanity to avoid being bloodthirsty, which would eventually lead to recklessness, or even arrogance, and cause great trouble. The face of the resentful Fox King changed from gloomy to bright, but he finally clasped his fists and turned away. The resentful Fox King is hostile to you and hates you to the bone. Do you want to use the life detection on him? A line of prompts suddenly appeared in front of Guan. This is hatred to the bone. The way to death. Guan raised his right hand and grabbed it in the air. The terrifying spiritual power of the Mahayana realm burst out, directly causing the resentful Fox King to explode and die, and his soul was even destroyed. No spells or magical powers. Directly suppressed with great spiritual power. If the opponent had a storage bag, Guan might have used a gentler method. Then, Guan got a hint to take away his lifespan. Not bad, he took away 190 years of lifespan. Just like his previous guess, the lifespan he took away was between half and 20% of the other party's remaining lifespan. Li, who was half kneeling on the ground, was stunned. The demon king of the transformation realm died just like that. He didn't even see clearly how this demon cultivator made his move. How could he kill him from a distance? How is it possible? What realm is he in? That the ancestor exclaimed in Li's heart, his voice trembling. This time, Guan heard the voice of Li's soul in his heart. The Mahayana realm cannot hear the voices of living beings, but the soul in Li's body is communicating with soul power. Every word he says will produce a slight fluctuation, which cannot escape the perception of the Mahayana realm. Guan turned around and looked at Li, and scared Li so much that he quickly retreated and stuck to the mountain wall. This person's realm is probably higher than when I was alive. The ancestor said in a deep voice, with a hint of sadness in his tone. He felt that Li was dead, and he was dead too. Li was completely panicked when he heard this. All along, in his heart, the ancestor was the most powerful, which was why he dared to be reckless, because the ancestor had a bottom line. Now that the ancestor could no longer hold him back, how could he not panic? Guan looked at Li's frightened look and wanted to laugh, but he was really afraid of scaring Li to death, so he concentrated his spiritual power in his throat, changed his voice, and said, "I have saved you for the second time. Why, do you think I want to kill you?" As soon as these words came out, Li was relieved, but Guan's next sentence made him nervous again. "If I really want to kill you, the soul in your body can't help you. Can he see through the soul in my body?" Li was shocked, which made him more panicked than wanting to kill him. Guan raised his hand and took the Beihai heavy sword into his hand. The sword weighing 10,000 pounds was as light as a feather in his hand, but the wind force raised along the way meant that the sword was very heavy. Seeing the other party holding the sword, Li's heart was in his throat, and he didn't understand what the other party wanted to do. "Boy, your sword is too slow, and I am not satisfied with your growth rate. How about I teach you a set of sword techniques?" Guan's vicissitudes of life sounded, which made Li stunned. A new month, a new week, and a new chapter. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Today's first update is early, and I will update 3 chapters when I wake up in the daytime. 4 chapters are 4 chapters. Chapter 99, The Ancestor of the Li Family, The Power of the Epiphyllum Sect. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Teach me sword skills. Leah suspected that he heard wrongly, but the other party didn't seem to be joking. The ancestor's voice sounded in his heart, "Don't doubt it. With his cultivation, there is nothing in you that is worthy of his calculations. Even if the Li family is included, it is still the same. It is probably because of a certain relationship that he takes care of you." Feelings. Guan held the Beihai heavy sword in his hand and pointed it at him. At this moment, Lia's heartbeat almost stopped. He felt suffocated when Gu Antai's sword was pointed at him. Before he could think about it, a sword intent burst out from the tip of the Beihai Pei, which quickly rushed into his eyes and made him freeze. Looking carefully, there was a figure in his pupils wielding a sword, and what he was wielding was the Tai Tsang Jingshan sword. I don't know how much time has passed. When Lia woke up, Guan was no longer in sight. Only the Beihai heavy sword was left standing in front of him. The autumn wind could not shake its sword. Tai Tsang Jingshan sword. Lia murmured to himself. He seemed to have thought of something. His face changed drastically, and he said in shock, "This sword intention is the sword intention of Fudao sword master." That he had been to Buxiantai and had a profound impression of the sword meaning contained in the word righteous way, which he could never forget. After all, it was the strongest swordsman he knew. Ancestor, that person just now was Fudao sword master. He is not a demon cultivator. Liya suddenly became excited and even made fists with both hands. The exquisiteness of the Tai Tsang Jingshan sword made his blood boil with excitement. He felt that he had received a peerless inheritance, even better than the dragon elephant divine essence. As long as he perfects the Tai Tsang Jingshan sword, he is confident that he can defeat all the geniuses in the world. Liya was excited for a while, and suddenly found that the old man was silent, and couldn't help but asked in his heart, "Old ancestor, why don't you speak?" That he was a little panicked. Was the ancestor captured by Fudao sword master? Despite the fact that he often quarreled with his ancestor, without his ancestor in his body, he would not have the confidence to walk in the world of immortality as he does now. "I am still here." The ancestor's voice suddenly soothed Liya's panic. Immediately afterwards, the ancestor's words confused Liya again. Tai Tsang Jingshan sword is the sword technique of the Li family, and Huangji sword technique is the incomplete version of Tai Tsang Jingshan sword. Liya was moved. There is no way anyone in this world can master the Tai Tsang Jingshan sword. During my lifetime, this sword technique has become extinct. The existing Huangji sword technique was sorted out by me. The ancestor's tone became complicated. Liya swallowed his saliva and asked cautiously, "Ancestor, what do you mean by your words? Please tell me clearly. He may be the ancestor of the Li family. Maybe that's why he takes care of you and me." The ancestor said quietly, "The ancestor of the Li family." Liya's eyes widened and he opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but thousands of words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't speak. After giving instructions to Liya, Guan did not stay in the Beihai Mountains. He galloped all the way to Taixumen. A month later, he will come to Beihai Mountains again to improve his combat skills, wait half a year before starting to collect tens of millions of years of life. Guan did not go back to Xian Valley directly, but came to the outer gate city. He was in a good mood today and planned to take a stroll. He first came to the heaven-building platform. After many years, there were still many monks on the heaven-building platform. There were more than 5 great monks in the void-crossing realm on the platform, including the Epiphyllum Ghost Mother. Han Ming, the mad swordsman of Daiyu, was still there. Under his guidance, Xuanlin's swordsmanship made slight progress, which made him give up hope. Zhua Yijian has left. According to Xuanlin, he is addicted to the novel The Romance of the Gods and firmly believes that he can realize his own swordsmanship in that book. "Master," a voice of joy came from a distance. Guan turned his head and saw Xuanxin walking quickly in the robe of the law enforcement hall. Guan smiled, and when she came to him, he smiled and asked, "How have you been lately?" Xuanxin followed Yilan, and her life in the law enforcement hall was quite comfortable, and her cultivation level was steadily improving. "That's it. By the way, Master, have you heard? Senior brother Su has joined the Epiphyllum Sect." Xuanxin's face was full of worry when she talked about Su Han. Guan said, "Everyone has his own choice, and we can't control it, so let him go." He had tried to persuade Su Han and promised not to waste Su Han's cultivation, but it was a pity that it was useless. In this case, Guan can only respect Su Han's choice, but from now on, he didn't bother to care about any trouble Su Han had, unless Su Han was about to die in front of him and he couldn't bear it, so he could help. Sigh, I don't know if I will have a chance to meet him in this life. Zhen Qin's tone was full of sentimentality. Guan couldn't help but ruffled her hair and said with a smile, "You girl, you have really grown up, you will be sad for spring and autumn." The master and apprentice stood at the edge of the patchwork platform and chatted for a long time. Zhen Qin had to continue patrolling, so she said goodbye to him. Guan looked at her back and felt quite emotional. This girl will not be seen again in 200 years, even though he is a monk in the Mahayana realm, he has no way to change the life limit of others for the time being, and he is not prepared to change it. After all, reincarnation is the normal state of all living beings. If he tries to change the fate of others by force, it will only form an obsession. If he fails in the end, it was he who suffered. Everything around him is a fragment of life for him. What he pursues is immortality. Of course, he will not exclude communication with others. Only communication between people can form a life. After Guan swept around the patchwork platform, he turned and left. He walked towards the elixir hall, and along the way he heard many disciples talking about the Epiphyllum Sect. The Epiphyllum Sect is getting bigger and bigger. It seems that this posture is to unify the devil. Guan didn't pay too much attention. Epiphyllum Sect could not threaten Xuanxin. Even if it could threaten Xuanxin, it could not threaten him. How to increase Yaogu's lifespan income is what he is more concerned about. Even though he was already a Mahayana monk, Guan did not want to go out and kill people. Instead, he continued to use herbs to save his life. He could not waste his life and continue to survive. After all, he was not sure whether he was invincible. Reason told him that he was still far from being invincible, and the ascended Lu Lingjun could prove this. This world is huge. An hour later, Guan came to the Grand Elder's mansion to visit Jiang Qiong. Jiang Qiong was at the mansion. After waiting for him to enter the hall, Jiang Qiong waved her sleeves and closed the door. Guan took out the herbs that he had collected before. Jiang Qiong did not count them, but waved her sleeves and moved the herbs aside. Then she looked at him and said, "I'm leaving." When Guan heard this, he couldn't help but asked curiously, "Where are you going?" "Xiantian Sect is becoming more and more suspicious of me. I can feel the murderous intention is coming. I am ready to join the Epiphyllum Sect." Jiang Qiong said calmly, "It's Epiphyllum cult again. Where does this Epiphyllum Sect come from?" Guan thought for a while, then took out the Tsang fruits one by one from the storage bag, and said, "Take these with you." Jiang Qiong glanced at the Tsang vine fruit on the ground and said with a half-smile, "Didn't you kids steal it for yourself?" Cang vine fruit is not something that can be produced in a short time. The fact that Guan was able to produce so many shows that he does not take Cang vine fruit regularly. "My qualifications are average. If I increase my vitality, it will attract attention and lead to murder. It is better to remain mediocre." Guan shook his head and said. Jiang Qiong smiled, "You really have no desires or desires. You have average qualifications, but your swordsmanship is very strong, isn't it? But I don't like practicing swordsmanship, and I don't want to become a swordsman. If you find a master for me, just imagine, a Foundation Establishment Realm swordsman with peerless swordsmanship, how would he fare better?" Guan said seriously. After hearing this, Jiang Qiong felt that it made sense. In the world of immortality, cultivation is the most important thing. She no longer dwelled on the matter, but said, "There will definitely be a battle between the Epiphyllum Sect and the Xiantian Sect. When I take root in the Epiphyllum Sect, I may be able to pick you up in the future. Want to fight again?" Guan couldn't help but frown. Why was Xuanxin so troubled? This Epiphyllum Sect is not simple. It may be an external force. Half of the masters of Qianxiu Pavilion have already joined the Epiphyllum Sect. I am hiding in the Xiantian Sect, and they are actually able to offer me support. Their intelligence capabilities are really terrifying." Jiang Qiong said with emotion. "The Epiphyllum Sect's hand has already reached into Xiantian Sect." Guan couldn't help but ask, "You didn't mention me, did you?" How is it possible? Even if I mention your cultivation level, they won't be interested. Xuanxin rolled her eyes at him. Guan smiled, and Xuanxin looked honest in his eyes. This stupid disciple. Xuanxin shook his head and laughed, and couldn't help but worry about how he would gain a foothold in the future. She reminded, the new great elder of the outer sect is said to be very cruel. You have to be careful. Someone from the law enforcement hall has been checking you before. It is probably very difficult for your junior sister to protect you alone. When you enter the 8 Views cave on weekdays, take a closer look. Be careful around here and try not to sell Cangvine fruit again. Guan nodded and said, I will remember it. After the two chatted for a while, Guan said goodbye and left. After leaving the great elder's mansion, Guan rushed towards Xian Valley. As autumn turns to winter, heavy snow gradually covers Xian Valley. On this day, Xuangu welcomed guests. Guan entertained each other in the attic. The door owner has already told me that if you encounter anything at the outer door in the future, you can come to me directly. Lu Songhan said with a smile, and his smile was very enthusiastic. This is the successor of the great elder of the outer sect. Lu Songhan has white hair, but his face is not old. When he smiles, he looks like a silly man. Despite his enthusiasm in front of Guan, in fact, he is a Xiantian Realm monk, and he is a tough and ruthless character in Xuanxin's mouth. Guan raised his glass and said with a smile, Thank you, Elder Lu, for taking care of me. The two exchanged glasses and chatted more and more happily, and in the end they even became brothers. At noon, Guan just sent Lu Songhan away. After he left, Yang Yanai came to him like a ghost and exclaimed in surprise, You are getting more and more powerful. Even in the Xiantian Realm, I call you a brother. Guan shrugged and said, You can also call me Brother Gu. Looking for a fight, Yang Yanai glared at him, as if he was about to draw his sword. Guan pretended to cough and said, I heard that the Epiphyllum Sect is gaining momentum. Please pay more attention in Xuangu on weekdays and don't let the thieves of the Epiphyllum Sect come to steal the herbs. When Yang Yanai heard this, he nodded slightly. Afterwards, Guan turned around and left, and Yang Yanai witnessed him leaving on the teleportation array. Strange, why did he suddenly mention the Epiphyllum Sect to me? Could it be that he guessed my identity? Yang Yanai thought with a frown, thanks only for Disease's reward of 1,500 starting coins, and book friend 20240628231643730 for his reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 100, The Infinite Free Step, The Supreme Elder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the middle of the night, heavy snow covered the forests of the Beihai Mountains. Guan sat on the cliff. He had already opened the life barrier and invested 100,000 years of his life into the Wuji Wuzong Xiantian step. Wuji Wuzong Xiantian step successfully promoted to Wuji Zizai step. It was still the pinnacle of perfection. The spiritual energy sank, and he began to inherit the Wuji Zizai step. Half an hour later, Guan opened his eyes, and he had completely inherited the Wuji Zizai step. Wuji Zizai step can predict the opponent's attack trajectory, can cross restrictions and formations, can step on the Dharma, and has infinite uses, can fight and escape. Wait another month, and he will improve the great Yin and Yang transformation. The advanced skills of the demon shadow divine art can hide his identity, which is very suitable for his way of cultivation. Guan stood up and flew towards Taishan Gate. Along the way, he spread his consciousness and looked for Liya. Liya was practicing swordplay by the lake in Beihai, very diligently, and no one knew when he would be able to master the Taicang Jingxian sword. Guan began to look forward to the duel between Liya and Anhao, but the two of them simultaneously used the Taicang Jingxian sword. When he thought of that situation, he could imagine the shocked and unbelievable expressions of the two, so interesting. Guan began to look for How Long again, but How Long was not in the Beihai Mountains at all. Could it be that he was driven away by the monsters in the Beihai Mountains? As for the possibility of being eaten, it is not impossible. If it is really eaten, it can only be blamed on its bad luck. While it was still dark, Guan hurried back to Xian Valley. The new year is coming, and the spring festival is coming. Lu Baidian came, and brought his new disciple on how to participate in the spring festival of the Third Medicine Valley, while Anhao went to the outer gate to pick up an Xian. The grown-up Xian stood tall and graceful, standing with Anhao. as if they were a match made in heaven. The third medicine valley, where the number of menial disciples reached 300, was very lively. Guan planned to go to Xian Valley in the evening, and he could not favor one over the other. Guan and LV Badian sat opposite each other under the old tree and drank wine, chatting about the trivial matters of the third medicine valley, and LV Badian also liked to listen. In LV Badian's words, he had lived for hundreds of years, and the most comfortable days were in the third medicine valley. Since you miss our medicine valley so much, why don't you give up the position of the sect master and return to the countryside? Guan asked with a smile. He was familiar with LV Badian, and he dared to joke now. Of course, his greatest reliance was still his own Mahayana cultivation. Lu Badian shook his head and smiled. If you don't advance, you will retreat. If I give up the position of the leader, it won't be long before I will be labeled a traitor of Xiantian sect, and some people will even throw all kinds of dirty water on me. Maybe I will become a spy of the demon sect. Moreover, the Lu family and Gu family who support me will not allow me to abdicate. In Xiantian sect, cultivation is the most important, but sometimes, it is not so important. When he said this, his tone was meaningful, as if he was pointing at Guan. Guan changed the subject and said, recently, a sect called Epiphyllum Sect appeared in the world of immortal cultivation. You should have heard of it, right? After staying in Xiantian sect for a long time, he still has feelings for Xiantian sect. LV Badian nodded slightly, then picked up the wine pot, poured wine for Guan, and said, Teixuman has long known about the existence of Tanhua sect. In fact, as early as 200 years ago, Tanhua sect wanted to infiltrate Taizong dynasty. At that time, the royal family was controlled by Tanhua sect. I led Teixuman to fight Tanhua sect in Beihai and repelled Tanhua sect. The Tanhua sect made a comeback this time, probably because they thought that Teixuman had just experienced a war and was seriously injured. In fact, it is true. Teixuman is temporarily unable to stop Tanhua sect from annexing the demonic path. Guan heard it and asked in confusion, what should we do? Let them grow bigger. LV Badian said calmly, it doesn't matter. Tanhua sect has planted spies in Teixuman, and we also have spies in Tanhua sect. Tanhua sect has many branches, but now Teixuman has not figured out their origins. Knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles. Wait a little longer. It's just right. I am also ready to break through and challenge the destiny. This is also called it nothing. I don't even know how strong the enemy is. Guan felt that LV Badian was pretending to be calm. He didn't attack the Epiphyllum Sect because he wanted to break through first. Speaking of the Epiphyllum Sect, I plan to send the 10 most talented young disciples to the Third Medicine Valley. They can protect you and cultivate their minds with you. LV Badian said with a smile. Guan was stunned and asked helplessly, what kind of mind can I cultivate here? I can't tell them anything. You don't need to tell them anything. As long as they integrate into the life here and calm down, it's enough. LV Badian shook his head and said. Guan suddenly wondered if this guy recognized him as Fudao Jianzuan. Otherwise, why would he treat him so well and now send a genius to help him? In the name of cultivating the mind, he actually wanted Fudao Jianzuan to teach them a thing or two. Guan began to test LV Badian, asking why he didn't let Fudao Jianzuan teach these disciples. Isn't Fudao Jianzuan the strongest in the cultivation world? LV Badian frowned and said, to be honest, we don't have any clues about who Fudao Jianzuan is. He may be a hidden ascetic. There are such examples in Xiantian sect. Xiantian sect has been established for thousands of years, and the number of disciples exceeds 1 million. There are always some disciples who get great opportunities and change their fate, but they are unwilling to show their faces. There is another possibility, that is, Fudao Jianzuan is a certain supreme elder. The supreme elders are elusive and occasionally come back to catch us off guard. Think about the word righteousness on the Bushiantai. It is very likely that the supreme elder is correcting the style of Xiantian sect. There really is a supreme elder. No wonder LV Badian is not panicking. What really made Guan breathe a sigh of relief was that Lu Badian didn't seem to associate him with Fudao Sword Master. After thinking about it, Guan suddenly felt that he had indeed thought too much. How old is he? How could it be Fudao Swordmaster? At most, it is believed that he is related to Fudao Swordmaster. After his worries were eliminated, Guan asked, Master, if you succeed in breaking through, can you sweep through the Epiphyllum Sect? Lu Badian smiled and said, if the Epiphyllum Sect is still as strong as it was 200 years ago, if I break through, I can sweep them all by myself. Boy, do you know what state I am in? He raised his chin, arrogantly. Guan pondered, it should be above the transformation god, right? Ha ha ha. Lu Badian laughed loudly, attracting other people in the distance. Guan looked at Lu Baitian's disguise and felt secretly happy. Beyond the spirit transformation is crossing the void, and above the crossing the void is the integration, and I am at the 9th level of the integration realm. Lu Badian said softly. When he said these words, Guan clearly noticed the spiritual power spreads out, forming a barrier to isolate other disciples from eavesdropping. Guan looked shocked and said to himself, the 9th level of the fusion realm, how many years of practice will it take to reach it? With your qualifications, let alone the fusion realm, it's hard to say whether you can be a nascent soul in this life. If you become my disciple, my cultivation will be yours in the future. Lu Badian said his intention again, his tone full of bewitching mien. Guan's face showed yearning and surprise, which made Lu Badian feel happy. This kid is on the road. Forget it, standing tall is not necessarily a good thing. Just like you, there are times when you can't help yourself. How high is your cultivation level? Isn't it more meaningful to enjoy life? Guan shook his head and listened. Lu Badian wanted to vomit blood. This kid really doesn't know the dangers of the world of immortality. Without the protection of Xiantian Sect, how could Guan do as he pleased? Lu Badian was about to speak, but when he thought of Guan's previous opinions on the outer sect and his teachings to himself, his words were stuck in his throat. Isn't it because of Guan's character that he fell in love with Guan? If Guan, who has no desires and desires, becomes the master of the Xiantian Sect, it will be the blessing of the Xiantian Sect. Just because he is not willing now does not mean that he will not be willing in the future. Anyway, he is still far from the deadline. Lu Badian convinced himself in this way. Guan then asked, Master, what is the realm above the combined realm? He is testing the depth of Teixuanmen. Lu Badian hummed, I'll tell you when you become my apprentice. Why do you insist on me being your disciple? Haven't you already accepted and how is your disciple? Why don't you train him as your sect leader? His origins are unknown, and he even worshipped Chu Tianqi as his disciple. I only accepted him because of his talent, and it does not represent trust. Then you must trust me. Of course, I have found out your details. You are a servant raised by the Ji family. You have some relationship with Li Xiandao, and you may even have some relationship with Qianqiu Pavilion. But I can see that you can't help but get involved with Li Xiandao. The relationship is because of Liya, and the relationship with Qianqiu Pavilion is because of the previous Valley Master. After Lu Badian finished speaking, he looked like he had already seen through you. Guan was moved, and the changes in his expression greatly satisfied Lu Baitian's psychological needs. I didn't expect you already knew that I really couldn't help myself. Do you need me to cut off contact with them in the future? Guan asked nervously. Lu Badian waved his hand and said, No, just do it as before. Cutting off the relationship directly will only cause you trouble. Maybe I can get their information from you. Anyway, Teixuanmen has as many spies as stars. There are thousands of spies that I know about but haven't acted on. Guan suddenly couldn't comment on him, so he could only give him an admiring look. Lu Badian was even more proud, and then talked about the chaos caused by spies in the past. Every time there was such a chaos, Lu Badian would catch all the spies. On the surface, he would catch them all, but in fact, he kept half of them and labeled half of the internal competitors as demon spies and dealt with them together. The half of the surviving demon spies were promoted by him. Those demon spies must have felt that they were deeply trusted, and either abandoned the dark and turned to the bright, or became more and more reckless, preparing for Lu Baitian's next swing of the sword. The two chatted for a long time, and Guan realized that Lu Badian was teaching him how to deal with the sect. Until evening, Guan came to Xian Valley alone and had dinner with all his disciples. When they were having fun chatting, Guan announced that Lu Jiujia would be appointed as his eldest disciple to take charge of all the affairs of Yaogu. This made Lu Jiujia very confused. Yang Yanai frowned and said to himself, he really doubted me. He has never communicated with this disciple named Lu Jiujia on weekdays. How could he suddenly make him the top disciple? That she felt like she had to do something. Third update. There are activities in the book review area, and you have the opportunity to draw fan titles and starting coins. Those who voted for the monthly ticket can participate. In case you win. The fourth update will be released soon.